I think it would be nice if Sri Lanka showed us a bit of form, actually, you know, a bit like the other, what we would call, I suppose, lesser countries have all scored tries so far. Cook Islands and Niue Islands, Trinidad and Tobago. So it'd be great if the guys, you know, could score.
Jason Forster, who we had a glimpse of, the Newport flanker and captain, and here's a man we have seen plenty of in the first half, and Sri Lanka have quite frankly had a stomach full of. Gareth Wyatt, try number 4. It's 22-0, and he's making his early bid to be the tournament's top try scorer. Gareth Wyatt.
Well, I don't think they're going to get a game as easy as this again. So, you know, make hay while the sun shines, and good luck to them. It's always good to get the tries. I mean, it's sort of the glory boys. But this is a bit too one-sided. It's, you know, the crowd's gone, you know, a little bit quiet. Sri Lankans a little bit despondent. The only people happy, I think, are the Welsh. And why not?
And that Gareth Wyatt, because of him and his 4 tries, Wales lead 22-0 at the break.
Nick Mullins and Jerry Guscott, commentators for what eventually became a Welsh victory by 57 points to 7. So a very positive start for Wales, who played Tonga next in Pool B, and we'll have that match live after 10 o'clock. South Africa and Wales, 1 win apiece. Pool C, England's pool. Now, England struggled somewhat to their win over the Cook Islands. They were behind for much of the first half, but then won 24-12. The big shock in that pool, Kenya's 28 points to 20 victory against the traditionally strong Samoans. And it will be Kenya, the next opposition for England.
Our referee, a Scotsman, Rob Dixon. And after England's athletes raised the roof in this terrific stadium over the last week or so, it's now to the rugby players, who barely raised a whimper in the first game against the Cook Islands, and Kenya, having upset Samoa, will now provide a stiffer challenge as Ben Gollings, as he did in the opening match, tries to use his speed. England in the white. And Phil Greening, the skipper, showing his versatility. This is Tony Rope, hauled to the floor, just short. Jeff Appleford, London Irish centre, born and brought up in South Africa, but courtesy of his English grandparents, now playing in the All Whites.
That's a bit better from England, showing a bit of depth and aggressive defence. There's a lot of pace in this Kenyan side, so they've got to be careful.
And this is Newton Mongalo, wide out to John Otieno. And Otieno, who scored in the upset against Samoa, scores against England, and it's 5-0 to the Kenyans.
Well, as I was saying, good aggressive defence, but you know, Phil Greening is caught on the outside. The slower man against the quicker man. And there's only one result, and that's a great start for the Kenyans. Once again, they'll be totally confident after beating Samoa.
I'll tell you something, Nairobi would be an interesting city to be in at the moment. They'll be going absolutely bananas, leading England by 5 points to 0, having won the first match, and a country where rugby's becoming big news. It was introduced by the expats, but the Africans have really embraced it as well. I think that one fell just short. Steve Nduritu with the failed conversion attempt. But I tell you something as well, Jonathan, if England play as loosely as they did in that first match against the Cooks, they're going to lose this one.
Yeah, maybe not the most skillful side in the group, the Kenyans, but one thing they don't lack, and that's pace. So they've got to be careful.
England going to use a bit of pace of their own. It's a familiar figure, it's Henry Paul. Greening up towards the 22. And Gollings again. It's a carbon copy of the first match. England find themselves in trouble, then find themselves rescued by the speed of Harlequins' Ben Gollings.
Yeah, good play here. First of all by Henry Paul, outside break. Looks for the inside support, and who's there? Phil Greening bumps one off, bumps another off. And that's a lovely timed offload and good support play by Gollings.
Ben Gollings, Cornishman, who's really been one of the cornerstones of England's improved form this season. A season which saw them finish 4th in the IRB World Rankings behind the All Blacks, South Africa and Fiji, and ahead of Australia. Highlight of the season, terrific historic win in Hong Kong. Conversion missed, so it remains at 5 points apiece, but England at the moment only seeming to stir themselves when they've been slapped round the face by the opponents.
Well, they only need to win, so you know it's that's the important thing. Get the game together, but very sluggish in both games.
Oh no, they won't need us to tell them that they will have to get sharper for the bigger guns to come on Saturday and Sunday. Final pool game will be against Samoa tomorrow. They'll hope to be in the quarterfinals. And I'm not quite sure who Benjamin Ayimba was throwing the ball to, but you suspect that Marcus St. Hilaire, the rugby league convert, was not the intended recipient. And Newton Ongalo spares his captain's blushes, shoveled out by Charles Carter-Villis. Their game.
You see, you know, their handling skills aren't of a very high standard. The passing technique is poor, but great endeavour and tremendous pace. Look at this again. There's one drop pass, goes down it, lovely offload, puts his teammate under pressure, and they've just got to concede a 5-metre scrum.
There's the 3-man scrum, just a couple of props and the hooker. Simon Amor unable to gather. And Kenya, as we approach the final 2 minutes of this half, are on the attack again, and John Otieno, well. Do you think he enjoyed that?
Otieno's away again, good support play. As I said, pace all through the side, and watch this, watch the gap, lovely offload, watch the inside run again, dummy and away. You know that tackle, you can't look for the dummy passes, you've got to take the man with the ball, you've got to clatter him.
It was Benjamin Ayimba, the captain, who a minute or so before had shoveled the ball out to no one in particular. On that occasion though, he came up with the key pass, drew the players, established the gap, and Steve Underitu adds the 2 points. Closing in on the final minute of the first half, and it's England 5, Kenya 12. England then 7 minutes away from a place in the quarterfinals, or perhaps embarrassing defeat to Kenya. If the pattern remains the same, it'll be the latter, Jonathan.
Well, they have to pick it up. You know, you can't go into a game expecting to win, and I think that's what England have done against the Cook Islands. They had a bad start, just scraped through, and now they're under the cosh once again. They need to be very positive now for the first few minutes of the second half.
The line-out will be a Kenyan one, but it's terrifically stolen by Simon Amor, one of the light players, so he can be thrusted high into the air. Now England they capitalise from this ball. Henry Paul, not seen much of that kind of thing in the 15-a-side game this season, but that's what he's capable of. And Henry Paul responds immediately for England.
This is what you need, look, one-on-one with Henry Paul, the ability to come off either foot, great upper body strength. That's a lovely try. You've got to put him on one-on-one. That conversion then brings England level, 12-all.
First dipped his toes into the Sevens waters, playing for Wigan, you might remember, at the Middlesex Sevens a few years back. But he's got power and pace and handling ability, terrific awareness, and this is his stage. And Henry Paul will need to perform if England are going to win a medal of any colour over the next couple of days. They'll have to do some defending first, though, because Dennis Mwanja, big, powerful runner, tries to create a few gaps.
I think what England have got to do, if you look at the Kenyans, they're very, very bunched when they've got the ball. You know, so that if there are turnovers, you've just got to give it a bit of width and get wide. Get your two outside men on each touchline and just spread the whole defensive line and attacking line.
Paul Sampson's on to add some acceleration. Henry Paul to Gollings, who has plenty of acceleration on his own. Let's watch him go. Needed support, might still fall. Sampson was trying to get on the end of it, but there were just too many Kenyan shirts back in the end. There's Paul Sampson.
Good run around by Gollings. Gap opens up. It's always difficult to beat someone with a covering defence when you're running across field. Sampson was looking for the penalty try, but he wouldn't have got there.
It's good of England, though, isn't it, to provide the entertainment value so far in the early hours of the Sevens tournament. At least they're keeping it close.
I don't think Joe Lydon will be very happy with the excitement that the England side are creating.
It makes for tense TV and even tenser coaches, you would have thought. England 12, Kenya 12, and the crowd trying to do their best to raise their men. Here's Greening. Amor. Henry Paul again has work to do, but Henry Paul is the man for the job, and single-handedly he is hauling England out of a deep hole.
You know he can do it, you know, just giving the ball and to take them on. Strength, good awareness, you know, good balance. Eases a little bit of pressure off the English.
Simon Amor with the conversion attempt. Made his full England debut against the French, you might remember, in the Six Nations. Took a bit of a caning afterwards, and I dare say that knocked his confidence for a month or so, but he's...
Yeah, hasn't had the happiest times in Gloucester as well, and it does take time to adjust to the new game. France away was very, very difficult, and you know, it's France playing particularly good rugby at the moment, but he'll bounce back. He's a quality player, and I'm sure he will come through.
Well, England are, it's worth pointing out, the most improved side on the Sevens circuit this season. We haven't seen much evidence of it so far, but Henry Paul just beginning to give us a few glimpses. The kickoff went just far enough. Loose pass, but there were enough white shirts there. Sampson did the initial hoovering, and now the bodies drive over to present the pill for Amor. Here's Paul again, who's just beginning to enjoy it, isn't he? As is this man, Phil Greening, the captain for the line, and the captain, you would now suspect, with the try for the quarterfinals. England leading Kenya by 24 points to 12, and there's a little over 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's the try that takes them through. Straight over the top of Osula. But, you know, it's not vintage England yet, but as I say, you know, they're just going to do enough to go through, and then all of a sudden, it's the serious stuff, the quarterfinals, knockout stages.
Again, Amor with the action replay. Lovely weather. Maybe we should play rugby at this time of year all the time, instead of that horrible rain and snow and frost. What do you think?
I don't really care now because I finished, so it is certainly fantastic conditions. Very heavy rain this morning, it's all cleared up and the pitch is in superb condition.
Felix Ochieng tries to relaunch the Kenyans. They won't give up, you can make sure of that. And John Atieno, who gave England a few scares in the first half, tries to relaunch them again. Big captain Benjamin Ayimba involved, number 8, just clearing the passage for the ball. It's Dennis Mwanja. These players are quick. Here's Ayimba, little chase ahead, but Paul Sampson, who might have been here in the stadium as a sprinter if his life had taken a different turn. 10.6 for the 100 metres, former English schoolboy champion. Actually trained by Tony Lester, who's Marlon Devonish's coach, but rugby's his game now, and a rugby gold medal is what he has his eyes on.
I think, you know, they've got to bring him into the game a little bit more, get him on the outside, you know, use his pace.
Into the final half a minute. The game's up for Kenya, but they've provided us with lots of entertainment.
I think their game with the Cook Islands will be something special.
Well, they might be playing both of them for a place in the quarterfinals, which will add to the interest. playing time that our referee Rob Dixon has added on. Picked up by Amor. And there is the man who could have been on the track in a different life. Paul Sampson of Wasps, scuttling beneath the posts. And England, as if to say, what was all the fuss about? 31-12.
Good play by him here. Look, he stands his man and he drags the next defender, and it's a good angle there by Sampson, and once he's hit that hole, there's no one going to stop him. Good play, good understanding by the England pair.
Final whistle's gone. The conversion was indeed the last act of the match, and England, who have taken their supporters on a bit of a roller coaster in the opening two matches, end on a high, and they end up in the quarterfinals. England 33, Kenya 12.
Henry, eventually the right result and the right performance, but why is it taking England so long to get into these matches?
I don't know, it's just credit to Kenya, their credit to their nation. They played really well. I'm not sure how strong the rugby is out there, but big, athletic looking guys, and they're fast, and it's slippery out there, so we made a couple of mistakes. A couple of wins, that's all we really just need to get through the pool stage, the tricky games. No matter what anyone says, big teams fall up every now and again, so we're just going to make sure we're solid.
And once you saw Kenya beat Samoa, you knew it was going to be tough.
No, of course we did. We never took. The teams have been in camp for about 2 weeks now. They've seen other athletes win medals, and everyone thinks they've got a chance to win something, be it silver, bronze or gold. So every team's going to be difficult.
It is a tough competition. You were behind at half-time. What was the conversation like out there?
It was a lot of just looks. We didn't really have to say much to each other. We knew that we'd stuffed up really that first half. We've got an awesome support. I really have to pay tribute to the people that have come out in Manchester and from all over to support our team, and they backed us there. There was a chance of England, and we really come through for them.
Well, you've done what was required so far. Well played, Aaron.
That's all. Thanks.
Yes, at the end of it all, it's England played 2-1-2, and the other match in that Pool C, Samoa beating the Cook Islands 43-5. Samoa getting back to winning form after their upset against Kenya, and England against Samoa, Kenya against the Cook Islands, tomorrow's remaining matches. Right, we've got plenty more rugby to come from here at the Sevens, and we're also off to the Velodrome very shortly for the last night's action in the track cycling. But let's just take you back to the swimming very briefly. And the English success there tonight, Rebecca Cook in the 800 metres freestyle, and also that bronze for Adrian Turner in the 400 metres individual medley. Let's see Adrian get his medal first of all.
Adrian Turner of England receiving the bronze medal on the men's 400 metres individual medley. A quite outstanding swim by him. A shock to most people in the pool, a 5-second lifetime best. A truly brilliant swim. His breaststroke leg and his freestyle leg, absolutely outstanding. Adrian Turner, a brilliant bronze. And what a great moment for this young lady. 19 years old from Reading, 5-second lifetime best to win gold at the Commonwealth Games on the 800 metres freestyle, Rebecca Cook. Wonderful moments for Rebecca Cook. And Adrian, the attack right from the start, brilliant pacing.
Yeah, very well deserved race, very brave, very courageous, stuck to their plan and got a gold medal. And very emotional, just as all the winners have been from the English team.
A brilliant moment for her. Land of hope and glory for Rebecca Cook of England. proudest moments of her life. Rebecca Cook receives the gold medal for the ladies 800 metres freestyle. She's waited an awful long time to get going in this meet. That's her first event. She's still got 2 to go. She's got the 400 metres freestyle tomorrow and still the 400 metres individual medley. But that she will remember for the rest of her life.
Yes, Rebecca Cook with England's 7th swimming gold medal of these games. And talking of 7 gold medals, remember that the Ian Thorpe juggernaut continued its progress tonight. He got his 5th gold in his quest for those 7 Commonwealth Games titles. Right, we're going to move swiftly on to the last night of track cycling at the Velodrome. 3 events were taking place at the venue tonight, where the Australians had such a glorious night last night. But watching tonight's action were Chris Boardman and Hugh Porter.
Start to wind it up now with just over a lap to go. So the next sprint once again beginning to unfold here. We're looking at the Kiwi there, Greg Henderson, who's strong, but now we're looking at the Australians who are beginning to queue up at the front, ready for a big attack for the sprints. And also coming over the top is Tony Gibb of England. He hasn't got the firepower though. Once the Australians decide they're going to put the hammer down, the English rider went back there. Australia at the front. Look at this Brown. Oh, the speed of Brown. He's looking at the rest as much as to say, well, is that all you can offer? Graham Brown picks up the fight. There's going to be a terrible crash. Terrible crash there. The rider came sliding down and the riders behind just could not avoid the riders coming down into the well of the track, and that looks like the man from the Isle of Man is very disgruntled.
Well, that was Mark Kelly who went down from the Isle of Man. That was a very nasty crash.
I think it's one of the Welsh riders. I think that might be Will Wright, actually, Chris. I think it is Will Wright. The speaker here at the Velodrome has just announced that Graham Brown of Australia, number 11, has been disqualified. 2 more sprints to go. There are the positions. It's very critical. 16 laps remaining.
The England team got to come together here. Brian Steele lost a lap for his troubles. New Zealand trying to get back in control, looking for his teammate. They're trying to get it together. England have to react now. 5 laps to go. It doesn't take long.
5 laps into the penultimate sprint here in this 30-kilometre points race contest. Chris Newton needs to be vigilant. He mustn't allow Jean-Pierre Van Zyl, Republic of South Africa, to nip away and gain points. If he doesn't figure, Scotland have gone clear. Now, if they let him go and they don't chase, that would help a lot because he hasn't got any points. And that's exactly what has happened. The New Zealanders are happy with that move. That's taken the pressure off them because the Scot has not got any points in the race.
Well, that's played into the hand of New Zealand. That's got the whole race back down to bottom, got the speed back up. This is exactly the way that they wanted to go. Well, Brian Steele lost a lap, helping Newton. He's there to do it again. Unfortunately, Gibb, the faster of the 2 of his teammates, is at the back of the race, and he certainly won't be able to help from there.
Well, I must admit that Lee Vertonghen is doing a sensational team job for the man that's leading the race, his teammate Greg Henderson. England once again coming to the front, and that's Brian Steele now lifting the tempo.
Well, Brian doing his best to help Chris Newton. Chris Newton still fatigued from the last sprint, couldn't go with him, and unfortunately he's helping the New Zealanders.
He's giving them a perfect lead out, isn't he, over the top. Coming over the top then is Mark Renshaw of Australia. In the wheel of Renshaw is Henderson. These are first and second in the race. Henderson's got 32, Renshaw's got 21. Renshaw picks up the 5, Henderson picks up the 3. That will mean now that Henderson goes to 37 and Renshaw gets the 3 to make it 24. So that means that Henderson can't lose the race. The gold medal is now his. Renshaw there for 5, makes him 26. Henderson is in second position. He picks up the 3, that makes 24. And then the 2 points went to Chris Newton to make him 15 points. So Newton's looking good for bronze. We're inside the closing 10 laps.
Well, he's had a hard time of it, Chris Newton, with this team pursuit event. You can see the fatigue now. He's holding on. He wants to be on that podium, but he has to be vigilant right till the bitter end.
So there is the man that has ridden the race of his life here, but I tell you what, he can thank his teammates. That's Hayden Ralston and Lee Vertonghen, especially Lee Vertonghen, because that is the New Zealand teammate that has been leading him out throughout. On the front for Australia, Mark Renshaw.
Tony Gibb lost a lap there. Brian Steele retired from the race, done all that he can. Gibb having a little word with Newton, asking him what he wants him to do. Perhaps a little bit late in the race for that now, but nevertheless, all help welcome.
There's the result of the last sprint: 5 for Renshaw, 3 for Henderson, 2 for Newton, and Jean-Pierre Van Zyl getting the 1. Well, I must admit the caption being shown doesn't quite agree with mine, but there we are. Henderson's got 35, Renshaw 26, Newton is third with 15, Jean-Pierre Van Zyl has got 10 in fourth, and Pritchard has got 8 for Wales. So it looks like England are in with a medal chance here, and it's going to be the bronze. Final sprint is now beginning to unfold.
For some reason, unbeknownst to me, Tony Gibb has just swung out from leading Chris Newton. Obviously feels he's not strong enough to help him at all, and sprinting so well at the start of the race too.
So Gibb has dropped off the back of the main field, and Gibb really would have been a useful ally for Newton in this closing sprint. And also on the front is Greg Henderson, the leader, and his teammates have fallen back as well. So Henderson, he's left on his own, and he's got nobody to lead him out. And the danger man, the Australian Mark Renshaw, is also lurking nearby.
2 laps to go. Chris Newton is desperately trying to improve his own position, but all the time at the moment he's riding in the wind. See an attack on the outside by Welsh rider.
Big attack off the front here from Wales. Look at this. This is Hugh Pritchard, who got a silver in the 20 kilometres, and Pritchard has got 8 points. So this could lift his tally up to 13. Won't be enough to deny Newton a medal. Van Zyl coming round. Van Zyl, South Africa. Oh, Van Zyl gets second for the 3. Newton picked up the 2, which makes him 17. But the man that he's celebrating, the winner here for New Zealand, who's ridden magnificently, is Greg Henderson, who takes the gold medal, bronze 4 years ago, and now he wins the gold this time. So that's the second time in a row that the New Zealanders have clinched this crown. Glenn Thompson of New Zealand won in Kuala Lumpur, and now it's the turn of Greg Henderson, and he celebrates.
Well, he's happy. Van Zyl not so happy, banging the bars in frustration, had to ride that race on his own without team help, and more or less so did Chris Newton, so that was a deserved bronze medal for him.
Yes, Newton will finish on 17 points, which will give him the bronze medal. Mark Renshaw of Australia will pick up the silver.
Chris, congratulations on the bronze. How tough was that? It looked a hell of a race.
Yeah, it was very tough towards the end. I settled in quite quickly and started scoring points from the word go, but as soon as the crash happened, which fortunately was just behind me, and that little neutralised brake, it took me a while to get going. Then I kind of like lost my rhythm, and it took me a while. I didn't really get back into it, and was struggling from then on, really.
You gave the Manchester crowd something to really shout about. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's tremendous here. I love the crowd when they come down here. We ride the national championships, and it doesn't really get the same crowd. I wish it did. Obviously, in these kind of events, it's just fantastic. It does spur you on to just aim that little bit higher.
This is the face of Emma Davis, who's just preparing, ready to ride in the bronze medal 3,000 metre individual pursuit against her opponent, and her opponent Alison Wright of Australia. There is Alison Wright, and she is going to have to produce the ride of her life here, Emma Davis, if she wants to win this bronze. Alison Wright in the semi-final, 3:37.185. Davies, 3:39.281. So just over 2 seconds, or just under 2 seconds slower, Emma Davies. So she's going to have to raise her game.
Well, knowing she's the underdog, I think will actually help Emma. The nearly 4 seconds between these two riders. Another very aggressive start. Posted one of the fastest first kilometres of the series. I think she could perhaps do with backing off a little bit over that first kilometre, but we'll have to wait and see.
So the battle is on now then between Emma Davis of England and Alison Wright for the bronze medal. There is Alison Wright. She's been quicker than Davis throughout the contest. She was the first to break the Commonwealth Games record, but Davis has got good home support here, and she rode much better in her previous ride to the qualification time trial.
Well, Davis coming back slightly. She's starting to get on top of her ride now, but she's really got her work cut out. Just 0.1 second behind.
So the next split, when they come round, After crossing the line this time will be the opening kilometre, and Davies really trying to bring the best out of herself here in this individual pursuit, just slightly off the pace of Wright.
Well, all you can ask her to do is the best that she possibly can. Really worked hard in that last round. That's 1:14 kilometre. That's good. That's very, very good.
So 1:14, the opening kilometre, and still Wright has got the upper hand, but there's not much in it. Dangling here is a bronze medal to the winner, and she's getting tremendous support. There it is, 0.779. She's still in with a shout here, Davies. So it's a hot pace being set here then in this ride-off for the bronze medal. Wright coming through again. She knows she's in a battle here, but it's gone back up. It's just over a second.
Well, I think Emma's going to struggle here. Alison Wright is on the same schedule as when she did a 3:35 in qualification, so she's held back slightly in the last round and she's getting it all out now.
So it's 5 laps to go as Wright crosses the line at her original starting station. Davies really trying to find something, holding that line low in the track. But Wright, the more punchy style of rider, 4th in the points race just 24 hours ago, coming up to the line to complete 2,000 metres, 2:26.590 at the 2 kilometre mark.
Well, Wright dying off a little bit now. She's now slipped 2 seconds off her schedule. You'll have to see which rider dies the most, but Emma Davies holding her own now at 1.3 seconds.
Well, Emma Davies, who rode in the points race in Sydney, has always loved this particular event. She prepares meticulously and is a good road rider, but she's going to have to find something special here in the closing stages if she wants the bronze medal.
Well, she's coming back, but not quite fast enough. She's really going to have to sprint now.
500 metres, she's in still with a shout. It's 1.2 seconds, but I have seen riders win from that.
Well, the Australian girl is going to have to blow spectacularly. Fantastic finish by Emma Davies, but sadly I don't think it's going to be enough here.
Here comes Wright, she takes the bell now, and there is the gap. It's still over a second, and it's looking like the bronze medal is going Australia's way. Alison Wright coming up to half a lap to go, fighting hard, trying to get this medal. It'll make amends for her 4th place in the points race. Big effort by Davies in the closing stages, not quite enough. Look at that, she brought it down to 0.6 in the end. It was a fantastic effort in the closing stages for Emma Davies, but it wasn't enough, so the bronze goes to Alison Wright in 3:40.409, Davies finishing in 3:41.019. Well, that's Sarah Ulmer, the defending champion here for the women's 3,000 metre individual pursuit. Her opponent from Australia, we're looking at her now, is Catherine Bates, and I tell you, this is really going to be a scrap, because between them in the previous round there was only half a second, and both these riders broke the Commonwealth record. It finally rests at 3:32.504, and it's Ulmer that holds it, but I think that is going to go.
Well, it certainly could, Hugh. Both riders starting off well. Catherine Bates posting the fastest first kilometre of the series with a 1:13 and almost 1:15. This will be a much more evenly paced ride, so we'll expect to see the Australian go ahead, but to me, my money is on Ulmer.
Ulmer is a classy pursuiter. She doesn't panic, she's very smooth, and she started quicker this time. Look at this, Bates is behind, so Ulmer really means business now. Bates already with 1 gold medal in her pocket, having won the points in emphatic style, and in Antwerp at the World Championships last year she got a silver in the individual pursuit.
Well, still nothing between them, but we would have expected, if anything, the Australian to go ahead. 1:15.3, Ulmer's first kilometre in her fast ride. Is she going to repeat that?
So 9 laps to go, and Ulmer is just slightly behind. It's 0.2 of a second, but that really isn't anything, because Ulmer is so deceptively smooth. The former junior world champion, the defending title holder from Kuala Lumpur. This is the first kilometre, and they're almost together. 0.54 is the gap between them. So there is Bates. face of concentration, just 20 years of age, 6 years younger than Ulmer, who comes from Auckland. Look at the gap. Bates has gone behind now. It's .266, and Ulmer is beginning to turn the screw here.
And I think this is where we'll start to see Ulmer slowly pull away, knows how to pace a ride, riding perfectly smoothly, just putting more and more effort in as she gets closer to the line.
It's up to half a second now, and the coach for New Zealand has moved to the station where Ulmer started from. He will stand beyond that line, the distance that Ulmer is leading her opponent on the other side of the track. It's still pegged at just over half a second.
Well, the Australian pulling out something special here. Much more even ride than before. It's going to be a fast one, I feel sure of that.
Bates digging deep, offering stubborn resistance here to Ulmer. It's gone up to .7. That is the biggest gap that has separated them since the start.
And Ulmer 1 second ahead of her fast time set in qualifying, so she's on for a record time here.
So that Commonwealth record at 3:32.504 looks as though it's going to go. 3 laps to go, and Ulmer really is motoring. The world record is 3:30.816, held by Leontine Zelard van Moorsel, set in the Olympic Games in Sydney. Now then, here comes Ulmer. 500 metres remaining. Bates is trying to come back at her. 9:07 the gap.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen here. Ulmer, if anybody in this competition, is not going to die, but can Catherine Bates find a sprint finish?
She looks so smooth, Ulmer, coming up to the line. It's the bell lap. The Kiwi set for a successful defence of her title, won in Kuala Lumpur. And where is she going to rest the time? The Commonwealth record, I feel sure, is going to go. She's forward on the peak of the saddle. She's in that streamlined position. Coming round now, and the crowd are roaring her on. This is going to be a good time. 3:32.467. She wins the gold medal in a Commonwealth record. Ulmer celebrates. She celebrates in style and has successfully defended her title. What a ride by Sarah Ulmer. The gold medal goes to Sarah Ulmer of New Zealand in a new Commonwealth record. The silver medal goes to Catherine Bates of Australia, and the bronze medal goes to Alison Wright of Australia, and Emma Davies of England finishes 4th. The countdown is on then for the ride-off for the bronze medal. Tension here all the way around the track here. This is an adrenaline-driven event as they come out of the gate.
And they're away, it's clean this time. Beautiful start by McLean. And Edgar's got to get that wheel. They're stretching him. He hasn't made the same excellent move as he did last time, but he's on the wheel now. He needs to get close.
Well, Edgar fought like fury to get into the wheel of the other two because McLean went off the mark so quickly. And Scotland coming round now to the halfway marker, and they're ahead of the Kiwis. What a fight this is. Here come New Zealand up to their station. Here comes Scotland up to theirs. This is the final takeover. Edgar holding a superb line in the bottom of the track, bringing Scotland to surely what's going to be a bronze medal. A terrific effort by Justin Grace of New Zealand in the closing stages, but Ross Edgar, he's going to take bronze for Scotland. He does. 44.934. Scotland win the bronze medal. What a games they are having. Gold by Hoy in the kilometre, and now bronze for the Scottish team in the Olympic sprint, now renamed as the team sprint. What a ride.
Well, a well-deserved medal, especially for Edgar. This is the biggest thing he's ever done, riding alongside Olympic medalists. Serious pressure, but he was up to the task. Struggled in that first lap to get on the wheel, and I thought that could have done too much damage, but no, the occasion lifted him and he held it all the way to the line.
44.934, that is quicker than the ride in the semi-final by Scotland. Look at the face on McLean, the effort as he comes out of the gate.
Actually putting talc on his hands just like a weightlifter, and you can see why. He simply looked like he was lifting weights there. And here we can see Edgar struggling to get on terms. Just shows what a tremendous ride he did. He literally did 1.5 laps in this race on his own.
Well, there's the team from Australia just getting themselves organised, ready for the final of the team sprint. And the team from Australia is going to be Sean Eady leading off, Joby Dacre will go second, and then Ryan Bailey and the team in the back straight from England getting a tremendous reception. Andy Slater will lead them off. There he is, the big fella that's got the task of getting this team underway. And then second will be Jamie Staff, the BMX wonder kid, and then the anchor lap will be Jason Queally. Well, let me tell you, this is going to be a real nail biter. There was only .007 between the two teams in the semi-final. It is going to have all the ingredients, all the drama, as both squads now prepare ready. Well, England are still looking for their first gold medal, and this is the last chance here at the Velodrome. 3 laps to go.
Beautiful start by Slater there, beautiful. He needs to get the ride of his life out now if he wants this gold medal. It is all going to be on what they can do in this first lap.
Well, the crowd are going absolutely potty as they come round to complete the opening lap. It's almost impossible to call. England are down on Australia and they're ahead of the Commonwealth record at this stage. So work to do for the England team. Jamie Staff trying to inject more power to get them back on terms. It's desperately close. It's down to .287 and the final 250 metres will decide it. Here they come round the track. Who is going to get this one? It's Bailey versus Queally. Bailey versus Queally, they're looking for the line. Oh, Australia take it. Australia win the gold medal. 44.506, a Commonwealth record, and England finished second, 44.772. So Australia proved to be the better on the day in this team sprint final.
Well, of course, Australia have the benefit of keeping their complete Olympic team together, while unfortunately England have had to swap around, being split in between the home nations. Andy Slater, no one could ask more of him. He produced the ride of his life, so consistent, but you cannot afford to give away 0.4 of a second to the Australians in one lap.
Sean Eady, Joby Dacre and Ryan Bailey win the gold medal for the team sprint in a Commonwealth record of 44.506. Silver medal goes to England and the bronze medal to Scotland.
Well, it had to be silver, unfortunately, but it took a Commonwealth record to beat you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the crowd have been fantastic. We all rode out of our skins. We did, it's the first time we've been ridden together as a team. I think we all did some awesome times. The Australians just had it on the day. I'm sort of disappointed, really. I really thought we could have had it today.
Well, guys, many congratulations. Craig, you've won World Championship medals. How does this compare?
I mean, winning the bronze, it's good. It would be nice to be in the final against England, but I guess we've got to be happy with bronze.
You had a false start, yet it didn't seem to break your confidence at all.
No, it's never really a problem. It can actually be quite a good thing sometimes just to run through a quick start and wake up the muscles.
Ross, the baby of the team, this must be magnificent.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, it's riding with these boys, it's a good experience for me, and I'm pleased to get a medal here, definitely. So.
Tremendous effort, lads, well done.
Thank you.
Well, the games are over as far as the velo. Well, be it for athletics or rugby, it's a magnificent sight, isn't it, this city of Manchester Stadium? But we've got the continuing story of the first night of Rugby Sevens now, bringing you up to date with what's happened in Pool D and further big wins for both Fiji and Australia. Fiji winning by 73 points to nil. They've won both their matches 73-0. And Fiji and Australia meet tomorrow afternoon. Both have played to 1-2. Neither side have yet conceded a point. And Pool A, which has the number 1 seed New Zealand completing their expected big win against the Niue Islands, but it wasn't outrageous, by 66 points to nil. But now a big match for Scotland against Canada. Really, qualification hangs on this. Scotland have beaten the Niue Islands. Canada have yet to face them. This is a match that Scotland have to win. We join it late in the first half.
See the intensity of the Canadians. Here is Williams. Try. Lots of men over, and Stanley scores the opening try. It's been coming, and Scotland have got to pull their socks up. They're 5-0 down.
Well, Scotland were very slow in defence here. It's just a couple of passes and they've evaded the last defender. And Stanley just says thank you very much. Not sharp at all by Scotland.
Canada's all-time top try scorer Winston Stanley in the 50-a-side game. If you know the way to the line in the 50-a-side game, then you've got a pretty good idea in the 7-a-side as well.
It's a little bit easier. You can see it all in clear time.
So the team from the country that invented this game are 7 minutes away from being on the edge of the cliff in terms of quarter-final qualification. Steve Lander gets the second half underway, and Canada, who have that one try, are off in search of another. Here's the man who scored it, Winston Stanley. He's quick. Now plies his trade with Worcester. Mike Blair going back, and Blair did well. Had support from Kerr. It's De Rollo. They've stolen possession again, Canada. Stanley's sniping around. Kick ahead from Jeff Williams. But it hasn't got any cleaner after the first half. It's still a bit of a mess, Jerry.
Yeah, they're just frightened of them and take the ball by the horns. It's basic mistakes, just fly hacking the ball. Very, again, nothing organised, nothing planned. Someone needs to get a grip of the game. The team that does is going to win it.
Scotland coach Roy Laidlaw, former Scottish and Lions scrum half, will know as well as anyone that it will be a very, very long night if they don't get the victory here.
Wow. You can't see them beating New Zealand tomorrow.
De Rollo clears the touch. They'll have possession from the line out, a three-man line out in sevens because it was their penalty. Team that travelled down with the rest of the Scottish Commonwealth Games squad in their specially commissioned kilts for the opening ceremony last Thursday. Spent last week preparing back home and returned to Manchester a couple of days ago. And this kind of quandary is not one they would have wanted to be in. Just overcomplicating a little bit. Ball knocked forward. And Canada will have possession again in a useful position.
In the way this game's gone, you ought to have a proper goal.
Went backwards. Shane Thompson. This is Marco De Girolamo. Asselin. Hat-trick in the quarter-finals in Kuala Lumpur 4 years ago against Fiji. They still finished on the losing side. Canada eyeing the quarter-finals again. They will play the Niue Islands tomorrow, having lost to New Zealand today, but to beat the Niue Islands for a place in the quarter-finals is a deal you'd have been happy with at the start of the day. That is what this match means to both teams. Hearing from the touchline, by the way, that Gregor Dixon, the Canadian skipper who was carried off on a stretcher, is not badly hurt, which is good news.
Yeah, I mean, it's be a mild concussion. Yeah, we're very pleased that he's safe and sound. Just probably got a headache.
Not as big as the Scottish one will be if they don't score a try in the next 3.5 minutes.
Well, I mean, soonest caution to the wind, they've really got to go for it. I think, I'd like De Rollo's kind of has a little bit of an arrogant swagger to him at the moment. Just delaying the ball going back to the Canadians when he should have some urgency about it.
Shane Thompson, the hooker, gathered him through, and it's been all Canada so far, hasn't it? Jeff Williams on the loop.
Yeah, they're the ones with the attitude and determination. I think if they continue in this vein, they're going to pull it off.
There's the ball. Simon Taylor trying to do his best to win things back. Keep chick ahead by De Girolamo. Now then, Scotland have got to do something. Mike Blair on the burst, up to the halfway. This is better from Scotland. The support's got to be there quickly, though. It is. Simon Taylor manages to get the ball away, but they're going backwards. And Canada, have they stolen the ball back? It's loose, play on. Steve Lander says, now then, opportunities. Di Rollo, he's got to go himself or find support. The support's there, but so is the tackle from Asselin. And Canada will have possession. The ball knocked forward in the tackle for a brief moment. Scotland saw the ladder to salvation.
Well, Di Rollo had the opportunity to pin his ears back, but great play by Taylor. And I thought he was in, and I think so did he. Otherwise, the ball would have gone out earlier to Patterson, who definitely would have scored. Missed opportunity, one that they may live to regret. He thinks he might just get out of the tackle, but doesn't. As the tackle went in, he could have, had the opportunity to slip the ball left to Patterson. It would have to have been a quick one, but still the opportunity was there.
2 minutes to go. Scotland didn't get out of the group stages in Kuala Lumpur 4 years ago, and they are in grave danger of repeating that rather distasteful dose here in Manchester. Canada with the put-in at the scrum. And they'll have possession again. There was a foot-up.
Foot-up's normally a free kick.
Scotland have got time to argue, really. Stanley, the scorer of the only try so far. This is where they're dangerous. Stanley's on the burst, and he has support as well. He's got De Girolamo, who didn't have the pace, but the curtains were shutting on Scotland's Commonwealth Games excursion just then. A minute to go. Scotland have to score. Mark Lee, the captain, wrestling for possession, but it's going to be the Canadians who'll have it.
Great defence by Scotland. I mean, they eventually gave a penalty away, which I thought was a bit harsh by Lander, but great covering. They've not given up yet.
But they're at the wrong end of the pitch.
Only takes 10 seconds to run to the other one. Not you, Nick, of course. You know I'm talking about an athlete.
7 or 8. This is no laughing matter for Scotland. Shane Thompson, the Canadian hooker, plays his rugby in Montreal, puts his shoulder into the Cannock cause. Thompson again goes into the final 10 seconds, and Scotland are not where they want to be. Jeff Williams, long ball out to Fred Asselin, a controversial figure in the build-up to these games. Couldn't kill off Scotland there, but we're into injury time.
Patterson desperately needed to keep that ball in then. I mean, it's time's up on the clock. Asselin goes there, good defence. But that's where Patterson just needed to flick it in quickly, just take the risk. I mean, it was kind of right at the end.
Into injury time. Collected by Williams at the centre of the line-out. Thompson goes on the peel around the edge, and Steve Lander blows the whistle. Canada have won. They will need to beat the Niue Islands tomorrow to reach the quarter-finals. If Scotland are going to get there, they have the little matter of beating the All Blacks. Scotland 0, Canada 7.
Yes, all is not lost, is it? But that was a really frustrating performance from the Scottish point of view. New Zealand head the table. It's now Canada that move into second place, and they have the advantage of facing the Niue Islands in their remaining match. It's Scotland against New Zealand tomorrow. We'll try and get the reaction of the Scottish coach, Roy Laidlaw, in a few minutes' time after our netball coverage. So Wales against Tonga, still to come here as we complete our coverage of the first day of Rugby Sevens. But let's move on to that netball now. Semi-final day, and a chance at least for England. But the first semi-final, New Zealand played Jamaica and beat them by 69 points to 51. But England against Australia, well, they've only beaten Australia once in the last 35 meetings. And after last night's hockey, dare we hope for another miracle? Well, Australia led 22-17 as we join it at the start of the third quarter, with commentary from Kendra Slowinski and Simon Reed.
Sherelle McMahon has come on as goal shooter for Australia. There's a change there. She's come on. Jackie Delaney's gone off. Eloise Southby's moved to goal attack. Jackie Delaney's moved to wing attack. Kathy Harvey-Williams has gone to goal defence. No changes in the England lineup so far, but Australia have made wholesale changes here, and it's very much their first team who are in, and that reflects the concern that they have. And it's a tribute to what England have achieved in the first 30 minutes. More of the same demanded by the crowd here. Here's Sherelle McMahon. Who's had an ankle injury, and I think they would have liked a little bit more time for her to rest it, but they need her here. Southby at goal attack. She'll still do quite a bit of the shooting.
Yes, she will, but McMahon will, again, like what Delaney did, was pull out of the circle and allow Southby to come in on the run.
Steve finds Murphy. Here's Tier. And a foul by Liz Ellis. So Tier has the penalty shot, doesn't make it. Steve tries to get it in, but that's a shame. The lead up to 6, and it could be more. Advantage being played. Here come Australia again. McMahon. Excellent work from Jackie Delaney.
Yeah, she saw a beautiful feed into McMahon. McMahon just slid round the post and then just cut back to it. There she drives, sees the gap between McCloma and Newton. Looks so easy.
And the lead now up to 7. A lot of problems around the arena here. The scoreboard is still very slow to catch up with it. But the lead is 7. Poor pass from Neville. This is not a good start to the third quarter by England. Squire, Delaney looks up, finds Southby. Good pressure from England.
It's a footwork call on Southby. Interesting call by Maggie Duplessis.
Neville, not much on. Australia with the press. Newton, still the press on, and England struggling. Remember, they've got to get the pass away within 3 seconds, and every time a player has the ball, that 3 seconds is tested. Well played, England. Neville. Murphy. Excellent attack from England. And here's Tier. Can she finish it off? Yes.
Yes, that was a really good defensive press by the Australians, but equal up to it. The England girls, very patient, switched the play, found Tier.
Sanders. Delaney, who's had such a good time at wing attack. McMahon draws the foul against McCloma. Sherelle McMahon. Poor shot from her. And Newton losing her balance, so a penalty shot here for Southby.
Yes, already McMahon's come in and made a difference with her movements, the speed of her pass, the quickness of her feet.
And Southby up to 18. Neville wants the ball again and gets it from Tier. Tier with a shot.
That was good, strong work by Neville. Couple of front cuts, 1-2s with Tier, finding the edge of the circle, a good feeding position.
Harvey Williams, lovely pass from her. And from McMahon to Delaney, and McMahon like a terrier racing in to get the pass in and makes it count. Super work. That's why she's such a formidable player.
She's so quick. The England defence at the moment are a little bit wide. They're not sure. Both Southby and McMahon take very wide runs. They just need to collect their thoughts, pull themselves back together a little bit closer and cover a little bit more space in that circle.
Neville. Low feed into Steed. And still shooting well, Joe Steed. She's 9 from 11. But England, you can see, so many more penalties against them.
This is Southby's been adjudged to have broken at the centre pass, broken too early at the centre pass, which gives a free pass to England.
Australia really turning it on now. Every England possession under immense pressure, and there you can see Tier giving the ball away. Good stuff there from Olivia Murphy. A wonderful vision to take that, and Joe Steed finishes.
That was a sensational intercept by Olivia Murphy. Her nickname is the Thief, and now you can see why, because she comes in and steals ball. And that was a wonderful follow-up.
Steed again, not that time. And a groan of disappointment echoes around the arena here. Williams again with that flat pass. Australia taking the wall wide. McMahon. And great work from Sonia McClomber again. Murta looking for movement and finds it with Murphy, and Harvey Williams crashes into her. Murphy, you can see, sporting that black eye. Alex Astle's also got a shiner. She's on the bench. Feed in from Neville to Tia. Again, that familiar little half step backwards, but it works for her. And she's into double figures now.
Yes, Liz Ellis has got a very long reach. She just feels perhaps she just needs to take the ball away from her a little bit, and she does it with a step back.
Sanders, Delaney. Foul against Newton. The crowd are really responding to another good period of England pressure here. Southby. Tia feeds Steed. Judged to have stepped, just allowed the landing step and one other, but there were a couple of little shuffles there from Steed.
Yes, I think she expected to land simultaneous, but Joan Hodgson from the international pool of umpires thought otherwise.
Sanders. Delaney. Again, McClomber. But a foul called.
Yes, I think Sonia there was within the 3 feet distance, trying to steal that ball.
Amanda Newton with the steal. Fabulous. Newton again. Murta. But the England defence are having superb games. Murta finds Murphy. Foul against Abby Tia. Holding call. And the interception's beginning to mount. Lovely pass from Harvey Williams. Yeah, foul there from McClomber. Sends McMahon tumbling. McMahon won't mind it though. Feisty customer she is. Steps in, she's allowed that.
Yes, on occasion McMahon gets involved with the physical play, and at this level you can expect it. McClomber won't give her ground. McMahon will have to find it away from her.
Well, foul call by Maggie Duplessis against McClomber. She didn't enjoy it, nor did the crowd. Southby keeps her cool with Amanda Newton all over her. Southby moves up to 20 now, and this is a good period by Australia. They're threatening to move away now, out of sight. England have to respond. 6 minutes and a quarter left in this third quarter. Tia from about 12 feet. Yes!
Yes, it was an off-the-ball incident called by Joan Hodgson. Contact by Harvey Williams.
Delaney. And again, wonderful interception. Newton and McClomber are just sensational. McMahon. Well found by Southby.
Yes, there's some good pressure down the court by England. And Newton and McClomber are reaping the benefits of the good teamwork that's happening. But the defence of the Australians, as you can see, is really tight. And it's making the play a little bit hesitant to England. It's not as fluent as it could be.
Neville. Yes, Murphy couldn't follow it in, not allowed in the circle. Remember, only goal shooter and goal attack allowed in for the attacking team.
Good work rate and hands by Murta to push that ball out of court. Just disrupt the Australian attack for a second or so.
McMahon. No, miscommunication for once between her and Southby. They both play for the Melbourne Phoenix. one of the top clubs in Aussie, so they know each other almost with telepathy. Neville.
In the circle, England throw-in.
England throw in, just a little nudge away. Tier. Murphy. Tier makes the cut. Aussie defence not really up to it that time, and Tier has a simple goal.
That was a lovely roll round the front of the circle by Tier.
And a missed pass, and England with possession again. McCloma. Murphy. Foul against Liz Ellis. England a little lucky there. But good pass from Neville. And Steed finishes. Joe Steed up to 11. And the lead down to 6. England possession. Another goal here. And once more, the crowd will be getting into this.
Yes, this is good work by the England attack. Getting frequency of ball to the circle edge.
Good fake from Murphy. Steed again. And does well. Ellis doing all she can to upset her. Steed up to 12. The lead down to 5. England hustling, and Fiona Murtagh gets it. Aussies again looking alarmed by what's happening, and Joe Steed with a terrific take there. Ellis going for the interception, not able to get it. Joe Steed with the goal, her 13th, and there's a timeout called. Looks like Fiona Murtagh's injured. There was the interception from Murtagh, that's where she got injured, but she made the all-important interception. In it went, good balance from Steed, composed herself well, got the penalty shot, that's what happened, and the lead is down to 4.
Well, unfortunately, England weren't able to improve on that and eventually lost 49-38. So it's Australia against New Zealand for the gold. England take on Jamaica for the bronze medal. Both those matches take place on Sunday. Now back with the Rugby Sevens. A few minutes ago, we saw Scotland lose to Canada 7-0, and they now face a real struggle to qualify from that Pool A. They have to beat New Zealand tomorrow. And a short time ago, I spoke to the Scottish coach, Roy Laidlaw. Frustrating performance, frustrating result. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, disappointing. You know, we'd hoped to win this game and go through to the cup competition. So it's very disappointing. And, you know, it was always going to be tight. Canada and seeded 9th, we were 8th, and there was only 1 point between us in the World Series. So it was always going to be a tight game, and unfortunately it went their way.
What do you feel you were missing out there?
I thought we took on too much contact early on. We should have made the ball go wider, and we had the opportunities to score when we had them on the line, and we made a couple of mistakes and didn't take the opportunity. And Canada are masters at slowing the game down. Once they get in front, just run the clock down, and that's how it worked out.
Well, all is not lost. What about New Zealand tomorrow?
Well, who knows? That's what we need to do now, beat New Zealand to qualify for the Cup.
OK, there'll be a bit of determination in the camp. We wish you well for tomorrow.
Thank you.
So a few frustrations for Scotland. Last action tonight is in Pool B. South Africa have had their second win of the evening, 82 points to 0 against Sri Lanka. That's the biggest win of the night so far. Wales themselves have beaten Sri Lanka 57-7. Now have a much tougher second match against Tonga, and that match is all set to get underway with our commentators Jonathan Davis and Eddie Butler.
It does promise to be a tough game. Wales against Tonga. Tonga lost their opening game, but they are full of power and they will be very physical, and Wales will have to be at their very sharpest.
Yep, it'll be a very physical encounter. They love the big hits, they look for confrontation. Wales have just got to get some ball, play with a lot of width.
Signs there of the Tongan power, but also signs that they're not the most disciplined, and Wales have a chance. Tongans have power and they have a bit of pace as well. Maybe Wales won't be able to go on the wide outside. Emyr Lewis tries to dink it over their heads, and it might well work for him.
Oh, great ball.
Great little ball inside, and it is going to work, and it's going to be the try for Jason Forster, the Welsh captain.
Yep, good start, good play by Emily Lewis. I thought he went up a blind alley, but a lovely little chip and good support play. But these are the games that conversions get vitally important. Lovely flick. Mrs. Gareth Thomas, straight at Jason Forster, strolls over. Should be an easy conversion for Arwell Thomas.
It is indeed. Arwell Thomas makes it 7-0 to Wales.
Just got to keep possession, Wales.
They do want to keep possession because they don't want Perry Tyone coming at them, or Celesi Finau. They know all about Celesi Finau because, of course, he plays for Llanelli in Wales. It's the tap back by Colloy, and it's led to trouble for Tonga. Howley waits, feeds Arwell Thomas. Well, that was Gareth Wyatt who'd come infield. Now then, Wales don't want to be scragged by too many Tongans. They've managed to retain possession well. Thomas to Gareth Wyatt, and Gareth Thomas. If anybody has the bulk to take on the Tongans, it's big Gareth Thomas.
Got to work a lot harder off the ball, support the ball carrier.
Howley, Jason Forster waits for people inside him. Forster gets it back. Good play. They might have worked an overlap, but might still be on. Instead, they settle for patience. Gareth Thomas. Arwell Thomas, but that's gone forward. So after all the patience, they've given it away.
This is the danger now on the break.
Tyone receives it back. No, in fact, here's big.
There he is.
Perry Tyone.
This guy's a monster.
Oh, he's dropped it.
He's got to keep on to it.
It offers a chance. Tyone gets back to make the tackle on Jason Forster. Thomas. Rob Howley. Arwell Thomas goes on his own with a little dink ahead. Did he catch a foot? Or did a foot catch him, rather? It did. I'd like to see that again. Not that I accuse Arwell Thomas of diving or anything.
Is there a call here for a penalty try? It's definitely a trip there. But I think, would that be a penalty try?
No.
You're never going to agree with me anyways.
Here we go. Howley might have opened up for him. Oh, slings the ball in field. He's hurled around, and you want to be careful with Rob Howley's shoulders because he's had a fair bit of trouble with them.
Yeah, look, sees the gap, tries to take Tyone on the outside, but he's extremely quick for a big man, Tyone. But they've got to try and turn this pressure into points.
Yeah, Howley giving the old ragdoll treatment. Very undignified for a player of his experience. That's well taken by Vaki. Tonga, though, not making much ground. Fahima at the bottom of that rut. And they're still very close to their own goal line. It's good Welsh pressure.
Good defence by the Welsh. Crucial match this is, because whoever wins this, I think will go through the quarterfinals.
Unipola with the break.
With South Africa.
Yeah, it's going to be the winner of this will take on South Africa for the leadership of Pool B. That's tomorrow. Wales are playing an advantage, which they can't take advantage of, and so they'll have the putting up the scrummage. So good defensive pressure inside the Tongan 22 by Wales.
Well, I don't think the Tongans have been in the Welsh half yet. This is the aggressive defence, forcing the error. Good attacking platform once again.
That's it. Howley into space, but it will be picked up by Arwell Thomas, and he gives the little signal for the kick, and it's the flyer Gareth Wyatt who's after it. Did he get down with pressure? He did. Touch judge and referee confer. Try awarded.
That's good awareness by Arwell Thomas. They've used this tactic in previous matches. He saw that Tyone was out there on the wing, the big back row forward. No match for Gareth Wyatt. Look, he's clearly onside. Giving Tyone 3 or 4 yards. Gets downward pressure on it, just, I feel.
There was certainly a case there for a penalty try because Tyone was taking him before the ball, before Gareth Wyatt played the ball.
And I think that's why the referee gave the try.
Arwell Thomas. These little 2-pointers may be important, although Wales are up by 2 tries to 0. That's beautifully struck. 14 points to 0 now to Wales.
That only just went over there, Ed. He was looking at it. Didn't get into that sweetly.
It's turned into a beautiful evening here in Manchester. The sun came out in the late afternoon and it's back to the start, the weather of the start of the week. Glorious. And again Wales putting Tonga under pressure in the Tongan 22. And it's a real stranglehold they've got on this game at the moment. Taione waits the ball.
Here we go again.
Here he goes. It may take 2. It doesn't actually, it only takes 1. It was good defence by Gareth Gravel.
The pressure once again.
And it was worked in Wales' favour because they've got the turnover. Emil Lewis again, and Taione can't take him. Taione looks out of sorts. Oh dear, that might be a penalty. Oh dear. He's given it to Wales, so the pressure continues, and it's going to be a 3rd try.
Good play, Arwell Thomas.
Arwell Thomas, the scorer.
That is a crucial try. Just before half-time, the 3rd try. Look, quick tap, bang, dummy left foot step. Again, it's Taione who misses the tackle.
Well, the littlest player on the field fends off the largest. Taione is having a bit of a nightmare out there.
Yeah, Wales have been very, very disciplined. They've well organised in defence. They've kept position. They've been very, very patient, and thoroughly deserve to be this much in front.
It's the final game of the evening. We've had upsets. None was bigger than Kenya's defeat of Samoa in the 2nd game of the afternoon. Then we saw Canada beating Scotland, and there was just a hint that Tonga might pose Wales real problems, but at half-time, Wales can look up at the scoreboard and see that they lead by 21 points to 0.
I just think that, you know, the first try will be crucial in the second half. If Wales can just get that next try, it'll put the game beyond Tonga. Tonga look big and powerful, but they don't seem to have a playmaker in midfield, and also the pace to go the length of the field. So good tactics by the Welsh squad.
I think Wales have concentrated together, haven't they? They haven't left any gaps in the middle of the field, because I think they know they can do Tonga for pace on the outside. Taione's not going to beat anybody for gas.
They're not going to stop him 5 yards out though, so that is the plan. Keep them in their own 22.
For Wales now, it's a question of keeping concentration. David Rees, the manager, Colin Hillman, the coach.
They've got Matthew Robinson to come on as well. Bit of pace, but the 7 that are currently playing are doing a good job.
I know they're going to dig this pitch up after the Commonwealth Games and lower the whole ground area, but considering we've had 4 days of rain, the pitch has held up really well.
Yeah, it's in good condition. Good condition.
Tonga, they're trailing. They need to get into the Welsh half, and they need to do some heavyweight battering. Did fingers touch the ball? No, they didn't, so it's going to be a free kick to Wales. So that's just the start Tonga didn't want. Selesi Finau,
number 12,
gone off.
Number 12 Vaki went to play the ball, but didn't get a touch on it. So again, in a strong position at the start of the second half. Just keep possession, be patient.
Rob Howley, Arwell Thomas.
If you look, Tonga playing with a sweeper, number 8, Taufima.
Gareth Wyatt, that's very neat play. He's going for a second one, and it's just beaten him this time. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt that time. Surrounded by officials, but very neat play by the Pontypridd Flyer.
Yeah, great play. You've got to be patient, because with a sweeper, you've got the extra man, 7 against 6. You've got to try and work the overlap.
He very nearly got it though. He bounced that.
And then once you've worked the overlap, you've just got to support the guy that's gone through on the sweeper.
Gareth Wyatt looks very sharp tonight, and that's going to be a try. Very simple try for Wales. Gareth Gravel, the scorer.
Well, this is good pressure. Look at the work he's done there. Gravel puts the drive in, gets up there, and there it is. A nice easy try, and I think that could be a game, set, and match to Wales.
That's it. Tonga were out of sorts in the first half, and they really look out of sorts now. Another 7 points. Wales 28, Tonga 0.
And it's a big game tomorrow, Wales, South Africa now, because the winner of that game, I think, will avoid New Zealand and play Canada.
Correct. The scoreboard says 28 now, but it is in fact 26 now. That's an excellent take by Gareth Thomas, straight from the restart. Howley has a little nibble at the blind side. Oh, he doesn't want to be flat on his back. Manages to offload, and Wales has scrambled that ball back well. Emil Lewis, Arwell Thomas outside him. Gareth Wyatt.
So just keep possession.
Yeah, hold on to it.
Get back. They've got numbers on the left again.
Gareth Thomas, the one who can bust forward, but he knocked it on. Or rather, it was a forward pass to him.
Forward pass, yes. There is just a little bit forward. In fact, if he'd have held on to that, the two defenders were committed. There is the graphic.
It's wrong.
Which is wrong. I'm quite happy with 28 for Wales.
Tonga into the Welsh half at last. It's a good drive by Fusilao. It's an excellent run by Fusilao.
Great tackle. Great tackle, Gareth Thomas. But they need to come on the left-hand side. They've got numbers.
It may well work for them, although
I think
Tao Fahima cut back inside, when if he'd pinned his ears back he might have got to the corner. Still, it might work for them. The more direct route doesn't work.
Great tackle again, Gareth
Faleo
Thomas.
Valu doesn't make it. Gareth Thomas stopped him.
He's made two fantastic tackles.
Advantage to Tonga.
I think they've got to score here now.
They're down to. Here they go. They have at last through Kenny Fusilao. They made heavy weather of it through sound Welsh defence, but they're on the board at last.
Yeah, the clock's against them though, that's the problem. Good play there, pops the ball up. Fusilao. And I've been very impressed with Wales. Gone about their job.
We've had a sort of double correction on the scoreboard now. 28 to Wales, 5 to Tonga. Are we all going to settle for that?
I don't think it'll matter those 2 points.
In fact, it's Tonga 7, so it might matter to Tonga. They do take some dragging down.
Rack time, use your feet.
Penalty to Wales. They have a 23-point advantage.
No, it's a penalty. It's a penalty.
They've just got to...
Back.
Just over 2 minutes to go.
Just keep possession now. Get behind the ball carrier. Howley's gone off. Baber is on. Matthew Robinson is on.
And with Lewis, Matthew Robinson, he's on. A little chip, it's worked for him. Jonathan Davis is about to tell him off that he's going to score. No, he's not. Didn't have the gas to get away from the defenders. Gareth Thomas.
Oh, unlucky again.
Knocks it on. It's still going to be a penalty to Wales, taking the man without the ball.
Yeah, I think going to ground as well, so just
Gareth Gravel takes it quickly. Jason Forster, good inside pass. And that's a very well conceived try by Wales.
They are playing well for each other.
Gareth Williams, the scorer. No, it's not.
Gareth Baber. I'm very happy with this performance. Late in the evening, last game of the day, a crucial game really with South Africa in their group. I'm very, very pleased. I've been very impressed with Gareth Gravel into Foster, and then Barber goes over.
Arwell Thomas with the drop kick, which slews wide, but we're into the last minute.
There we are, 31-5 now.
31-5, although, yeah, we agree on.
We agree on that. The scoreboard in the ground says 28-12. So he's had a long day, the guy in the scoreboard, I think.
There we go. Little knock on by Wales, perhaps advantage to Tonga. Advantage Wales. And just no forward pass.
I don't think they worry about it.
Close one. I thought there was a knock on off the kickoff, but yeah, perhaps. The feed to the Tongan scrum.
Push square, push square. Pushing forward, what? Not pulling back.
Second bite at it. Not that it'll count for much because
it's over.
Time is up. It's over. And even Apeli Taioni at his fittest and strongest wouldn't be able to get through from there, and he hasn't been at his best tonight. Instead, it's Wales. Can they finish off Emyr Lewis?
Just keep possession.
Matthew Roberts, he might fancy, having failed to get to the ground, to get to the try line on the first attempt, might have a real dart at it. Second go, and it is almost been made easy for him, but
it's a scramble.
Spirited scramble on the line, and away come Tonga. That's good sound work, and away comes Koloi.
Maori side step.
And they swing it out wide. Now it all depends on whether Wales really want to get back and have a go at Taioni. They do.
Look at him still.
He is a man mountain.
Oh, great tackle. There he goes again.
He's off. And they've done very well to stop him, Wales. Let Tonga get the penalty.
Got to play it out. Oh, great tackle, Jason Forster. This will be the last play of the match.
Taioni, again, they might have it wide. It should be a try for Alofi. He has to feed infield to Faleovalu, and they have to stop and start again. Again, it's good Welsh defence, although it was offside. No, the high tackle. It's change.
Yeah, against Tonga.
I don't know how long we've played, but this is going on forever. Last game of the night.
That's it.
They don't want the sevens to end.
Not 10 yards.
No, and on they play.
We should just leave him score now. The game's over anyway, so just leave him score and then we can go home.
Oh, he's still blowing his whistle.
Oh, come on, ref.
It's Paul Honus.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, a lovely little chip. And we'll score.
Very neat little tries. See Wales, listen to Jonathan.
Yeah.
Let Tonga score, let's go home. The try scorer is Viliami Vaki. And finally, Tonga will move into double figures, but they're way behind Wales. The conversion should take them up to 12. Are they even going to bother to take the conversion? They are. It's missed, and the final score is Wales 31, Tonga 10.
So a good start for Wales and England, not so good for Scotland. Our coverage of a vital second day of sevens. The last group matches building up to the quarter-finals tomorrow early in the afternoon, right about 1 o'clock, but we're on the air 9 o'clock, BBC One. Well, tonight in the pool, of course, a brilliant 800 metres freestyle gold for Rebecca Cook. The story of that and much more besides in our late night programme with Hazel and Sue, which is about to get underway on BBC One. But from the city of Manchester Stadium, it's goodbye for now.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no.
Modern Jamaican history does not begin with Bob Marley and reggae music. It begins with a group of black workers in a cane field fighting for justice. In one way or another, Jamaicans have been fighting ever since.
Jamaicans are people who want their freedom, and they want to retain their freedom, and they will die fighting for their freedom.
The fight for Jamaica. Jamaica 40 continues with Blood and Fire, Sunday at 7 on BBC Two.
I'm never going to drink again.
Great. Your mother's staying the whole week.
Of course I love you.
The check's in the
We're
post.
just good friends.
This won't hurt a
My
bit.
wife doesn't understand me.
BBC Two presents Liar, a brand new game show with Paul Kay.
Everybody in the whole world tells lies, even someone as massively well hung as myself.
I don't believe you, just like I don't believe him.
Monday at 9:30 on BBC Two.
Let the lying commence.
Dishonesty is the best policy.
All right. Who am I doing now then? Then I can make that dream come true too, AKA for you.
We can do better than that. You ain't my mother! Yes, I am!
Hey, come on, son, your turn.
From award-winning documentaries to cutting-edge entertainment, the BBC is committed to providing world-class television, radio and online for everyone. Find out how the BBC's invested in programming at bbc.co.uk/annual report. Because it's your BBC.
Newsnight and Newsnight Review on BBC Two now with Kirsty Walk.
Tonight, the government's key asylum policy on trial. Are they determined to create large centres for asylum seekers near places like this, regardless of any public inquiry? In a personal film, the writer Christina O'Doney explores the heartbreak and joy created by IVF. Is it putting unbearable pressure on women to pursue motherhood? And we'll have the latest on what could become one of Britain's worst outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease. And a Newsnight Review at 11. Rosie Boycott, Akram Giovanni and Paul Morley join me to discuss the latest cornucopia of sex, love and death from Pedro Almodovar, Talk to Her. The Pulitzer Prize winner William Kennedy's new book and his Albany cycle, Roscoe. The ultimate disaster movie, Terry Gilliam's catastrophic attempts at Don Quixote.
Cut. What's going on?
And Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, it pays to tell porky pies at the BBC shock.
Vote out the person you think is the biggest liar on the show.
Good evening. Today, the government announced that it will challenge the decision by local councils in Nottinghamshire and Oxfordshire to reject plans for large-scale asylum centres and force a public inquiry. There has been widespread opposition to the rural centres for roughly 750 refugees, not only from local residents, but from all manner of agencies, from the Red Cross to the Law Society and the Refugee Council. Richard Watson has been to Bicester in Oxfordshire to find out if this is simply a case of not in my backyard.
Could this be the solution to Britain's asylum crisis? The government wants to create accommodation for asylum seekers on this military-owned land near Bicester in Oxfordshire. 2 other sites around the country have been earmarked to house a total of 3,000 people. Here there's talk of 750, but the Home Office is not ruling out increases. Legal advice, sports facilities, medical care and schooling would be on site, but government officials aren't going to get their way without a fight. For years, the Army has used this 100-acre site in Oxfordshire to store military equipment. But now the government's plans to turn it into some sort of asylum seeker village has caused uproar in the local community. Just half a mile away is the picturesque village of Piddington, where locals say the population here will totally swamp their numbers. This is quintessential English village territory. 120 families, mostly appalled by the prospect of 750 asylum seekers on their doorstep.
Well, I just think that they shouldn't come to a place like this because there's nothing here. That's what I say. I mean, if they're going to have them in the country, which I don't believe they should, I think they should be sent back to their own country. Because there are a lot of people in this country got nothing, and why should we give things out to them?
At an impromptu meeting of the Piddington United Front, feelings were running high.
The Red Cross and Oxfam, the Refugee Council, Amnesty International are all against these people being put in rural areas. They think they'd be much better, and I agree with them, in urban areas where they would have much better facilities for integrating into the community.
Are you a NIMBY?
I am, absolutely, because I think it's an absolutely absurd idea to have these people living 600 metres from our village. Property values are going down, and generally speaking, everybody is absolutely terrified of what's going to happen, particularly the older people. I've had telephone calls from people saying, gosh, what are we going to do when these people arrive? I've had calls from younger people saying, they're worried about their children, and so on and so forth. But as a general principle, I'm not in the slightest bit worried about the idea of asylum seekers coming to this country.
They're going to go into Bicester and they're going to get stared at, and that's not going to help it. And maybe I shouldn't say it, but if they go in on a Friday night, the local fellas with the local girls and that, I'm not saying it, but it could cause problems.
If we've been asked to accept, say, sort of 150, 200 people who had been accepted by the government as genuine asylum seekers, I'm sure we would not make any problem about it.
So you're shaking your head there.
But I think you say just accept 150, that's not the issue, because it's in the wrong area for 50 of them even. Down in Slough, Southall and places, you could put probably 200 there and you wouldn't notice them.
Not surprisingly, the local council has rejected planning permission for the centre.
These are people, so treat them as people, that they should be in small groups that can relate to the local community and, make it sustainable, make it sensible. Whether it ended up in Bicester or Oxford or Manchester, wherever, do it on a scale where the people are being treated as people and not just a huge number being put in the middle of nowhere in an old camp.
The nearby village of Arncott is the nerve centre for an increasingly effective campaign.
I've been to Songat myself and I've seen what has happened to the local town. It's become a ghost town, people are intimidated.
Villagers suspect that many of those to be housed near here are economic migrants, not fleeing repression. The BNP is trying to exploit this resentment. The planned centre even features on their website, though everyone I spoke with today said they hated this sort of attention. Even so, there is anger at perceived feather bedding for those seeking asylum.
People are resentful because the British taxpayers is not being put first. I'm not saying that we shouldn't help genuine asylum seekers, but not over and above the people that live here, pay their taxes and are entitled to all those things as well.
A public inquiry is now inevitable. The government points to the massive rise in the numbers seeking asylum, and it seems they will press ahead regardless of the result, because they have the power to overrule.
Richard Watson. Well, earlier this evening I spoke to the Home Office Minister, Lord Filkin, and asked him whether the government would follow the findings of any public inquiry, even if it goes against the government.
Essentially, the inspector provides a report to the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister. The Office of the Deputy Prime Minister then makes his decision either in favour of development as we proposed it or against, and we will abide by that decision.
But if that inspector delivers a report which says that fundamentally these centres are not a good idea and they're too large for a small rural community, will the government abide by that inspector's report?
The government would fully abide by the decision at the end of the planning appeal process.
But the end of the process lies with John Prescott, not the inspector. So what you're saying is the government could simply override the inspector.
On any appeal decision, which is a major issue, it is right and proper that there are inspectors who are able to hold local inquiries where everybody is able to have their fair say, and then the inspector makes a report. But the inspector does not make the decision. That has never been the case and has never been proposed as the case. The decision rests with the responsible department, which is the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister.
Do you understand, though, that when you announce these centres to have school facilities, medical facilities and so on, they do cause a great deal of resentment because perhaps that's not what local people have?
Well, I could understand if that was what people felt, but clearly we would be expecting that asylum seekers had the same level of service and standard of service as anybody else in the country would get. All that we're doing in these cases is providing it in a concentrated area which has some benefits in terms of giving decent services and being efficient.
There's also a significant fear of crime. The age profile of asylum seekers points to many young men. People are worried about them roving in the countryside with few police officers at night. Do you understand that fear?
Yes, I do, and that I understand, I hope, many of the concerns that people have about a prospective change in their area. In practice, what we have found with asylum seekers who have been given temporary accommodation in very many parts of England, but of course almost totally in urban areas or the southeast, we have found that the fears about criminality have not been strong in practice.
The government has said these centres will house around 750 asylum seekers. Can you guarantee that figure won't be more like 1,000?
We've no current plans to make them bigger than 750. However, if we found, after the light of experience, that one could provide better facilities for people and that they would prefer with a bigger side, we wouldn't close our mind to that, but we have no current plans to do so.
Are these centres a fait accompli?
No, nothing's a fait accompli. We don't control the decision as to whether the planning decision is made or not, and we have an open mind when we're undertaking accommodation centres, if we get planning permission, as to whether they work well in practice, and we will be happy to have discussions with our critics about that.
Lord Filkin, thank you.
Thank you.
The in vitro fertilisation, or IVF method of bringing about pregnancy, was at the centre of not one but two storms this week. First, a terrible mix-up over the paternity of twins. Second, a question of creating one life to save another. But away from the controversial headlines, IVF is increasingly seen as commonplace. The lure of this treatment is proving irresistible to the many women who are leaving it later and later to have children. In 1999, almost a quarter of women who opted for IVF were over 38. In a film expressing her personal views, the writer Christina O'Doney explores not just the happiness, but the heartbreak and pressure that comes with IVF.
Babies. Everyone wants them. But you may be one of the 30,000 British women who has difficulty getting pregnant. Or, like me, you may have left childbirth dangerously late. For women like us, there is an option, IVF. But it's an option that comes at a high price. Financially, physically, emotionally, IVF can prove a traumatic ordeal. And I've often asked myself, would I be willing to go through all that in order to have a child?
Actually, this is a picnic, that's the play area. Sweet.
I went to Cheshire to meet Joan Marshall, who adopted baby William from Russia. Jane had tried IVF after 9 years of failed attempts to have a child naturally.
Does he still eat a lot? The desire is obviously still there. You don't mind how many injections you have to have or how many mornings you have to get up to go for a scan or the actual process of retrieving eggs. The physical side really, it's not very pleasant, but you know, you're very well motivated to go through it because the prize at the end is a baby.
IVF involves a woman taking fertility drugs to help produce more eggs, which are then harvested and fertilized in the lab. The woman is given hormones to prepare her womb to receive the fertilized eggs, and if they're accepted, pregnancy takes root. For Joan, IVF proved a difficult experience. She had 7 cycles of treatment, all unsuccessful.
We only ever read in the press or see on the telly of the miracles and the success stories. We very rarely see the tragedies and the despair. Nothing prepares you for failure. No matter what percentage chance that you're given, when it actually fails, you actually have an overwhelming sense of loss, of failure.
Despite the recent horrors of the black-white baby mix-up and the studies suggesting links with ovarian cancer, IVF enjoys very good press. There are countless stories about Hollywood actresses who have their first child at 45, or high-flying career women who choose to postpone motherhood until their 40s. Hearing about these experiences, you could be forgiven for thinking that IVF is a foolproof way to have a child whenever you want. Over 27,000 women are buying into this dream every year, and that figure is increasing all the time. Only 25% get it on the NHS. Whether you qualify for free treatment depends on where you live, though national guidelines are set to change this postcode lottery. The success rate is about 18%, but that figure drops dramatically for women over 38. Professor Kraft, I'm 41 years old and I don't have a child. Could you help me get pregnant?
That's a very difficult question to answer because I can only give you averages, and we know very well that people between 40 and 44, 45, according to the statistics of the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, on average have about a 5 to 6% live birth rate.
Well, we'll have a look. Naturally, there's over here. Come and see. We've got...
Our growing reliance on the treatment has turned Professor Ian Kraft, one of Britain's top fertility experts, into a millionaire. His Harley Street clinic helps women as old as 55 become mothers. Given the failure rate of IVF, why are so many women still banking on it?
Well, that's for them to decide at the end of the day based upon their own resources and whether they're actually going to get NHS treatment or they're going to have to go into independent sector. I personally believe it is, provided the centre is honest with them from the very beginning as what is the likely outcome going to be for a woman of their age and the results of that particular centre. But I don't think it's right for them to assume that IVF is a treatment for infertility. That's quite a wrong assumption. And I think it is being promoted at the moment, and I regret that sort of philosophy. But on the whole, you know, the success rates are now much better than they were a decade ago. It's on the way up. It's not on the way down.
So there are prams for twins?
Yes, there are, yes.
My friend Annabelle Heseltine is one of the professor's success stories. She's 39, and after 2 ectopic pregnancies and 1 miscarriage, she's now expecting twins through IVF.
Very good.
I went with her to Babylist, an exclusive one-stop shop for expectant mums.
Yeah.
How much does it cost?
It's around £550 because I also have a home in the country. So, I mean, I'm buying two prams. These are the famous J-cloth knickers.
Oh no!
Oh yes.
That's it for broodiness. That's absolutely over.
Decide that we don't want the husbands to know about it. There you go.
It was Peter, Annabelle's husband, who first suggested IVF.
I had huge reservations. I found it incredibly difficult to accept that I had a problem. It's a very fundamental thing, having a baby, and I had lived with the expectation all my life that I would one day become a mother, and always felt quite strongly that no woman is quite complete without becoming a mother.
I tend to work on the basis of working with people, so I don't want to be telling people what to do.
45-year-old Jane Nodder felt the same pressure to be a mother. She had 3 failed attempts at IVF and changed her life after deciding to give up her dream of having a child. She's now coming to terms with the role of being a woman who is not a mother.
You can have a fulfilling life without motherhood, but I think you have to work quite hard to get to that point. I think it's very easy to always have this regret and big hole and what didn't happen, and looking back and just thinking my life could have been so different. You kind of think, well, Christmas is always quite a difficult time. You never see a child go to school for the first day. You never be a grandmother. So I think that it kind of starts to come back again. I wouldn't be surprised at getting to that stage. That will be another hurdle to go over.
I've always been taught that a woman's ultimate role is to be a mother. This ideal places an unbearable emotional burden on women who fail to become pregnant. It's not just emotional, but also financial. Because many cannot afford to go private, our already overstretched NHS faces immense pressure to deliver women's dreams. You can make a great business out of women's desperate desire to become mothers. Each IVF cycle costs an average of £2,000, but most women need several cycles in order to get pregnant, if they ever do. In order to increase her chance of getting pregnant, and in order to increase their own success rates, several fertility experts are now implanting more than 2 embryos in a woman. This can cause multiple pregnancies, and in turn that can damage mother and child. In my view, therefore, there's a clear conflict of interest between a doctor's profit and his patient's health. Yet such are the claims made for IVF by these miracle workers that some women will risk even this.
Ideally, women should have a single baby. It won't ever be possible to achieve that unless you only transfer a single embryo. But if you do that in some people, like you, for example, at 41, that's a disaster to you. Your chances is so much lowered by doing that. And even making it just 2 for people at 41 would be a disaster. And there's a move afoot in this country to do that still, thinking that all women have the same risk of multiple pregnancy. It's completely wrong. They don't have the same risk of multiple pregnancy. So you're going to sacrifice some people's ability to become pregnant for political dogma.
I'm going to put some jelly on. It's just feels a bit sort of cold.
Annabel was willing to take that risk. She had multiple embryos implanted with her second IVF cycle.
Having IVF changed my life. I mean, in retrospect, yes, there was a small amount of pain, there was some agony, there was a lot of uncertainty. I had to be strong at difficult times. But I have 2 little babies wriggling around inside me. What more can I say?
But Annabel is one of a minority of women who succeed through this route. Joan Marshall's experience was very different. She has now found fulfillment without IVF.
It was like 4 years of just roller coaster emotion. Up, down, and at the end of the day, I just wanted a child, and that's why I stopped IVF. And that does sound absolutely ironic. I stopped IVF because I wanted a child, but I wanted 100% chance, not 20% chance, or probably less by that time because I was 41.
IVF seems to be becoming another step on the route. It's like almost becoming part of what you do to get pregnant, and I think I'm not that happy about that because, at the end of the day, it's a very expensive process. It's very emotionally expensive. It doesn't have a very high success rate, and I think people are starting to think, oh, well, if it doesn't work, I can do IVF.
For some women, IVF delivers the miracle of natural childbirth. Yet for the great majority, it proves a long and arduous process that delivers nothing. Our society places such a high premium on motherhood that many women will make any sacrifice in order to try to have a baby. And yet, having studied the statistics and having met with some of the women for whom treatment failed, I know that I, for one, am not in the market for IVF.
Christina O'Doney's view. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by Dame Ruth Deach, who was the former head of the Human Fertilisation Embryology Authority. And from Oxford by Dr. Gillian Lockwood, Medical Director of the Midlands Fertility Service and Chair of the British Fertility Society Ethics Committee. First of all, Ruth Deach, one step on the route. IVF now, it used to be extraordinary, now it's seen as just one of the kind of panoply of ways, as it were, to get pregnant.
Very regrettable, I think, and it's very important that women should know that their fertility is going to drop off at 35 and even more at 40, how expensive it is, and that when all is said and done, the success rate is only 17%. It's not something that one can bank on.
And yet, more and more women seem to think that they can bank on it.
Well, they're banking on it partly because women's lifestyles these days have led them to pursue careers and not to find partners until they're in their 30s, unlike 40 years ago when people got married much younger. And the other problem, of course, is the rising rate of infertility due to sexually transmitted disease.
So, Gillian, for many women it's a kind of false prospectus because they look at IVF as their chance to conceive, whereas the actual rate is not that great.
I think that Ruth gives a rather pessimistic view of the outcome of IVF by averaging all clinics' success rates. I think that it's important that we recognise the brute biology here. Women were probably designed to have babies in their late teens and early 20s, and our sociology simply hasn't kept pace with evolution. Today's women in their 30s and early 40s look so young and feel so young that they simply find it hard to accept that their reproductive lifespan is just as short as their great-great-grandmothers, who expected to be dead by 40, not still fertile. But I think we've got to recognise that the difficulty with IVF is that it was introduced as a medical treatment for infertility, and it's become now a treatment for almost a lifestyle problem. And we need to separate the difference between couples who have a specific medical problem that can be overcome by this brilliant technique of IVF, which gives the infertile couple exactly the same chance of getting pregnant each month as a normally fertile young couple trying quite hard, with women who've simply left it too late and their biological clocks have now run down to the point that the chance of fertility is just very low.
But there is a danger about the way we perceive women. There was a wonderful time in the 60s when women felt they really had it all under control. Contraception, abortion, everything was possible. One could have one's career and plan childbirth. But the way that the newspapers report the science these days, there is a danger that every woman now will feel that she's got to be a mother, and if she's not, it's her fault. She should spend more. There is pressure, I think.
Isn't it extraordinary that women, in the beginning of the 20th century, are still not only do people define them, but also define themselves by their ability to be mothers?
There's pressure from the media, there's pressure from the rest of the population, there's pressure from the doctors too. And I'm really worried that a woman is seen as a body into which, if you put the right treatment, a baby will emerge, but she's got to keep trying.
And Gillian Lockwood, do the clinics exploit this?
No, I don't
Does a
think they
baby
do.
industry exist?
I think that the pressure to try for a pregnancy which may have a statistically low chance of happening comes from the patients, not from the clinics. As that rather jaundiced piece by Christina pointed out, the clinics have a vested interest in keeping their success rates as high as possible, and therefore wouldn't certainly be encouraging women in their late 30s and early 40s to have IVF. The pressure comes entirely from the women.
Now,
I think that
is that not
the
a bit
case that women
disingenuous?
simply don't know at what point this desire to achieve motherhood is going to hit them. For many women, it's going to be as soon as they marry the boy next door, when they leave school. But for many women, it's not going to even occur to them until their mid-30s or even later that they want to have babies.
The message we have to get across to women, I think they know it really, is that every woman is a worthwhile and complete person in herself, whether or not she has children. I'm not saying that women shouldn't try, but I think society, too, must be compassionate and accept all women as complete, as they do with men. When you meet a man, you don't say, have you got a child, have you not got a child? And women, I think, have to see themselves, and others have to see themselves, as complete persons in themselves. I don't want to lack compassion, but a woman is a good and whole person, child or not.
But isn't that easy to say? But for some women, the pressure you talk about from the media, but the pressure, with the family magazines, the perfect adverts with the children. As a society, we value this idea that women are better in some way if they can have children.
In the end, you can't have your cake and eat it. If women want children, biology dictates they've got to find a partner earlier than they do and avoid sexually transmitted diseases.
Well, can I just bring in Gillian? I want to pick up what you were saying about the clinics. Isn't it the case that in order to make the stats better, that what happens is that now this multiple embryo implant means that it can be dangerous for women, and the pressure to succeed and create a profitable industry means that women are given, again, as I say at the beginning, a false prospectus because they have more than one embryo implanted.
No, well, the law has recently been changed, or the recommendations, so that only 2 embryos are now implanted in the overwhelming majority of women having IVF. I think we're not quite as good as Scandinavia here, where a 1 embryo transfer is becoming the norm. But compared to America, where they regularly put back 10 embryos and then do a fetal reduction if they end up with quins or octuplets, I think that the HFEA, of which Ruth chaired for so long, should actually be quite proud of the fact that the 2 embryo transfer, which gives a very good chance of pregnancy in the average woman having IVF, and still gives a chance of twins, which actually most infertile couples welcome. They say, yes, I'd like twins, a boy and a girl, please. And it's very difficult to get away from that sort of expectation.
Thank you both very much indeed. In a moment, Newsnight Review, but first a roundup of today's headlines. 1 person has died and 4 people are seriously ill following a major outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in Barrow-in-Furness. A further 18 cases of the disease, which is caused by bacteria in water systems, have been confirmed, and more than 30 others are suspected. An arts complex in the town has been cordoned off as a precaution. A little earlier, I asked our correspondent Richard Bilton what is happening tonight in the town.
Well, there have been some fairly significant developments. The people who are running the reaction committee here trying to deal with this outbreak were predicting about between 6 and 10 cases a day. We've had more than 20 this evening. The figure now stands at 54 people who either have or are suspected of having Legionnaire's disease. And of course, we know about the man who died. So this is a hospital very much under pressure, an outbreak that really is sort of taking over the town. It's what everybody is talking about. People are ringing their doctors with all the flu-like symptoms that they've been told to do. One or two of them, it turns out, have the disease. In fact, we're told that, for example, in accident and emergency in the hospital behind me, which is very busy as you'd expect on a Friday night, it's overly busy, and there are probably people sat in there with Legionnaire's disease. They're just working their way through. So it is a very tense night tonight, if you like, in Barrow.
With that speed, as it were, of the uncovering of cases then, what do you think the possibility of how big this could be?
Well, they're very guarded on that, of course. I mean, they're very nervous because part of the problem is they know this has been here for probably a month, but they're still not entirely sure of the source. It's thought that it's now this arts complex, which is in the centre of Barrow, and that's been cordoned off. There are police down there. Certainly the cases that have been reported are linked into that area, but a whole month of people going through the centre, perhaps moving to different parts of the country. The basis they were operating on this afternoon is that they would end up with about 100 or between 100 and 130 cases, but that was on those initial figures, so they are very worried. They're hoping that this is an initial wave because they've released the information, but of course they are genuinely concerned.
Richard Bilton, thank you very much. The United States is maintaining its demand for a change of regime in Iraq despite an offer by Baghdad to hold talks about the possible return of weapons inspectors. The White House has played down the Iraqi move, saying it wanted unfettered access to Iraq's weapons program. The United Nations said the offer was at odds with Security Council rules on the deployment of the inspectors. And the markets, the FT 100 share index was up, while in New York, the Dow Jones closed down by nearly 200 points. Against the euro, the pound was up. Against the dollar, the pound was down. And I'll have tomorrow's front pages in a moment, but now I'm joining my guest for Newsnight Review. Tonight in a packed show, Pedro Almodovar's new film, Talk to Her, Girlfriends in a Coma, Tenderness and Heartbreak from the Spanish director. Fedoras, Dark Alleys and Steamy Sex in Roscoe, William Kennedy's latest novel chronicling political corruption in Albany, New York.
Come on, horse. Come on, horsey.
Cut! Lost in La Mancha, the truth about Terry Gilliam's ill-fated attempt to make Don Quixote. Yes! And Liars Are Us, the new BBC panel show which knocks the truth into a cocked hat.
Who on that stage is the biggest liar?
And joining me are the writer and critic Paul Morley, the journalist and broadcaster Rosie Boycott, and Akram Giovanni, television editor of Time Out magazine. Pedro Almodovar, famous for comedies Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, and
one of the best films I've seen in I just can't remember how long. I mean, when I finished watching it, I just wanted to watch it all over again. There is so much you can talk about in this film that it's hard to know where to begin, but let's jump right in with the bit that is really about the taboo, and this is the relationship between Benigno, who is this young man who has looked after his mother. He knows nothing about women. He's a sort of educationally subnormal, I suppose we would call him. He has spent 20 years looking after his mother, being a nurse. He's in fact taken a correspondence course in how to do manicures. He is endearing and sweet and full of nothing but love. His mother dies. He becomes entranced by a dancer who he can see out of his window, who is called Alicia. Alicia falls into a coma and he takes over as her nurse. And then Almodovar does this quite wonderful thing. He introduces into it a little short silent film, in which the silent film, the woman makes this little shrinking man, and the shrinking man climbs inside his lover because he is now literally this big, and he climbs into her vagina because this is his sign of love. And this is how he tells us about what is later described as a rape. But the word rape is very contentious, I think, in this, because although the doctors use it, I would not describe what Benigno did as rape, because it seems to me he carried out an act of love.
I mean, slightly unusually, we have to give a little bit of the plot away in this, because it is so central to the story.
It doesn't ruin the film, though.
No, it doesn't ruin the film, but also is he charting new territory here? Because All About My Mother was heading in this direction. There were very much unsettling, very similar themes appear, similar scenes appear. Do you think that it is a much darker Almodovar?
Well, no, I think it's very much a companion piece to All About My Mother. And All About My Mother in this film are actually very different from the rest of his work. And I have to admit that I'm not an unmitigated Almodovar fan. I found this kind of kitschness and delirious colours of his earlier films rather off-putting. What I like about this is he's kept his iconoclasm by turning conventions on their head. I found the rape thing actually much, much more problematical, because what he's saying is that if you say that rape is about physical and psychological trauma, then does somebody who's in a persistent vegetative state and therefore not be able to feel those traumas not been raped? Is he saying
that she was in a coma, not a PSV? It was the other casualty that was in PSV. I mean, she was definitely going to die, whereas this one was in a coma.
Who might come back?
Yes, that was the difference.
But nonetheless not able to feel anything and not able to sustain any psychological trauma. And what he also seems to be saying that in certain extreme circumstances, rape can be beneficial for the victim and disastrous for the perpetrator, which I think is actually turning the convention on its head. And I find that actually quite difficult to deal with.
But rape essentially is an act of violence, and what Benigno does to Alicia is an act of love, and that is what's so incredibly subtle about this film.
But also, Paul Morley, it's also shot through with an extraordinary amount of black humour, which works despite the uncomfortable subject matter.
Well, he's taken a series of many risks, really, to tell a variety of love stories. I mean, it's very dangerous, because even whether this is a rape or not, the character's still portrayed as quite a seedy pervert, and then forms a rather wonderful love kind of relationship with Marco, the main early 40s, mysterious Argentinian travel writer, who kind of, that's a fascinating thing that he does, that this guy who may have, committed this rape, he still has a best friend. He has this best friend. And that is a kind of dangerous thing to do. Pedro, I'll have to call him Pedro, he's constantly doing this. He's doing dangerous things all the way through. I mean, it's interesting how beautifully structured it is as a film, but everything seems to come out of nowhere. And these aren't Sixth Sense surprises. These are great, true surprises.
What do you think about the whole pacing and the imagery? You talked about the fact that you think that he can be accused of being a very kitsch director before. The colours are bright in this. But what I thought was so extraordinary is that in a single frame, you can create such beautiful imagery with a piece of wallpaper. I mean, he does that so well.
The main...
As the girl in the coma, who is the subject of the longing by the nurse and the caressing and the caring treatment. There is the other the coma victim, who is the PSV coma victim, who is the bullfighter. And again, of course, there's been a real trouble in Spain about showing bullfighting scenes. Well, but tell me about her character. She's so precise.
I found her completely electric, actually. I thought that the bullfighting scenes, which normally I find quite shocking and awful, were quite beautifully filmed and somehow didn't seem so shocking and awful. And there is one scene when she is being dressed in her kit to go out into the ring to fight. And it's the most sexy scene. She's got this extraordinary body, and they're kind of pinning her into these wonderful clothes. They're hooking her in, using a hook to make the buttons work, and it's all done very, very slowly and very precisely. And she is in the middle of a tremendous emotional dilemma by this point, because the man she's been in love with, who has left her, and he's in the audience, and she is then with Marco, the troubled travel writer who Paul was referring to. And the one curiosity I had about the film was when she goes into the ring and she's kneeling with her cape in front of her, and she sort of lets the bull come straight at her, and it's almost as though, is she asking the bull to decide what she is meant to do? I couldn't work that out.
Well, that is interesting, because in fact, that is one of the areas of uncertainty. Completely. Whereas Almodovar does lead you through, and you sort of know what's going to happen next, but it doesn't spoil it for you.
It's almost like you predict, though, in a dreadful Hollywood sense. Oh, I know what's going to happen next, and it never does.
Well, it sometimes does, though.
Well, even if it does, it's still surprising, though.
You predict a disaster coming, don't you? I think, but
yes,
quite what it's going to be,
But I think what's impressive
you're not
about it is not whether you can predict what's coming or what's not going to come, but how he actually takes all of these things. It takes our expectations and he pulls in a different direction. I mean, in terms of structure, the film is incredibly sophisticated, because it begins and ends with two Pina Bausch dance pieces.
Which
with
the last one is quite extraordinary.
Gorgeous. And in both instances, you have two people in the audience whose lives are going to intertwine and they're going to be irrevocably mixed with each other, but they don't know it yet. So it starts in one place and brings us back to the point of departure. In between, he fillets the time up. But yet there's never a sense of kind of jerky emotion. It's all fluid
and I think this is
beautiful.
why it doesn't matter if you give the story away, because as it's a great piece of art, you'll be able to look at this in many, many different ways, many, many times.
Well, indeed, do that. And Talk to Her, Certificate 15, will be in cinemas nationwide from the 23rd of August. The American writer William Kennedy did not know when he wrote his novel Legs 27 years ago, set in the city of Albany on the Hudson, that it would start a hugely ambitious cycle of novels. They would take in Ironweed, for which Kennedy won the Pulitzer, and The Flaming Corsage, to name but two. And now he's reached his seventh, Roscoe, returning to the seemingly innate corruption of the town's Irish-American democratic politics at the end of the Second World War. Roscoe is peopled by characters who inhabit the other novels, visiting in dreams and memories, and at times it reads intentionally like a Dashiell Hammett story.
From the mountains to the prairies.
For a few minutes back then, Roscoe felt safe as a hero, for not even Patsy knew that after Roz rejoined the engineer train, he worked in company headquarters and wrote, in the dead captain's name, and forged, in the dead captain's hand, the citation lauding Roscoe Conway's bravery in drawing enemy fire, a prize-winning work of fiction that earned Roscoe the Distinguished Service Cross. Fraudulent? Perhaps. But he was in the heavy action. He was under direct fire at the German lines, and his own buddy shot and damn near killed him.
I'm much against this novel, the novel and the short story that takes place in a social vacuum. I'm not interested. It has bored me for years, and I guess that's why I became so interested in history, because it was a rejection of that. And so in Albany, once I began to discover how profoundly involved Albany had been in the total history of the country, there was no need to go anywhere else.
In Roscoe, William Kennedy has charted the swagger, seediness and violence of small city corruption through a generation. He reads like a black and white gangster movie as he combines hard-bitten humour with fantastical riffs and a dose of passionate longing.
Everybody knew he was insane about her when they were young. Insane. Pressing her to marry him. But Elisha dazzled her with his razzmatazz and the family fortune he had regenerated. And Veronica, with sweet pets and kisses, told Roscoe one of her lovely lies. My darling Roz, you love me so much you'll absolutely die if I marry you, but Eli will die if I don't marry him.
While I was reading this, I kept thinking of Edward G. Robinson. It was every Edward G. Robinson film I'd ever seen. Is it derivative of a lot of other American writing, or do you think he has a special voice?
Well, you can talk about Chandler, and you can talk about Hammett, and you can talk about, Tom Robbins. You can talk about all sorts of people, but he's got a very individual voice. And I must say, I'd always resisted his work. I find that kind of testosterone charged American novel about the sensitive, unspoken love between men and friendships between men quite difficult, very easy to resist. And I was hooked from the first sentence onwards. And it's a brilliant sentence in modern fiction. I mean, it's not as good as the Anthony Burgess one, in Earthly Powers, which starts off with something like, it was the afternoon of my 81st birthday, and I was in bed with my Catamite. But I mean, listen to this. That year, an ill wind blew over the city and threatened to destroy flower pots, family fortunes, reputations, true love, and several types of virtue. I mean, it's a great sentence, isn't it? And it gets better and better and better. He plays these wonderful word games. So we'll have something like, the next sentence is a lie, the preceding sentence is true. And it's like Lewis Carroll. He actually uses two words, beamish and slithy, which are nonsense words that Lewis Carroll created, and he uses them as though they were idiomatic speech. I mean, it's a beautifully written book, and not derivative of anyone.
And where the others would have a straightforward or narrative, what he does, he throws these fantastical dream sequences in the middle all the way along. Does that work?
It worked for me. I mean, it's written like a classic American novel, so he uses a lot of a classic American novel devices. So, for instance, he uses lists, which William Burroughs used a lot, which Tom Robbins used. I mean, I counted at one point, it tells you about 33 ways to fix a cockfight and 44 ways how to use corrupt money.
The pages about the cockfight go on and on and on, and you have this scene between Patsy and Bindi, this big row, and I just thought that for me was in need of a good editor. I thought it was too dense.
I agree that I thought it was too dense, and I found that, I mean, I haven't read the whole of the series, and so there were a lot of characters in there who are unfamiliar to me, and I found myself seeking out what seemed to me the central narrative, which was Roscoe's story Elijah's suicide, his love affair with Veronica, and then this wonderful story about the paternity of the boy. And when I got to those points, I sighed with relief because I thought I'm in territory that I understand. But then you move off into these really legions of people who all seem to have weird and strange jobs. And yes, you've got a wonderful sense of this small town corruption and everybody being able to buy anybody, run anything, do anything, have cockfights, do all these illegal things. But I was glazing at certain points. I found it quite hard work to get through. It sort of makes me want to go back and read the whole lot, but I'm not sure whether I quite will. But it's not a book that I'd sort of necessarily recommend to someone to say, you're going to have a really good read with this, because were too many parts where I felt a bit lost, and for 100 pages I kept going back, and then after that I thought,
but
oh,
you don't have to go back. You see, I started off feeling like that, and it doesn't matter because each character has a biography, and there's wonderful names like Cutie LaRue and Ike Finkel. You know, it doesn't matter if you don't retain them in your head. You just enjoy them for that moment and move on.
Sure, individual nice bits, but as a whole, I find myself being very frustrated.
Paul, did you feel that William Kennedy has these characters going around in his head on a daily basis?
Well, I'm quite glad, first of all, that you can read this in isolation from some of the other books, because it did take an awful lot of stamina to get through, in a way, just because his world that he's created is so compact and so full of facts, and every character that comes along, he can very swiftly and very brilliantly, but ultimately quite exhaustingly, give you a biography of who they are, where they've come from, what they've done. There's so many names, it becomes biblical. You kind of think, where am I? What's going on? It's interesting compared to the Pedro thing. We've just seen the way that Pedro dealt with time so beautifully that in here it becomes a little bit of a mush. And I did feel it was sort of Raymond Chandler, but given the license of how you can write about certain things with a late 20th century, early 21st century sensibility, so that it could be a bit more pornographic, it could be a bit more explicit. But ultimately, what was happening for me is that everything was kind of drifting off behind me as I went through it, because it was so hard to keep hold of everything that it was dissolving behind me. And at the end, I thought, well, such effort to set this up that in the end, I don't get a great sense of liberation and meaning about what this book is about, other than the obvious, that behind the scenes of a political kind of world, it's really, really corrupt, and we're only meant to see it without the spin.
And the women are either kind of, as it were, you know, these perfect, unattainable creatures, or essentially
they're
kind of
brothel
sluts.
madams. Yeah, well, there's nothing in between.
There's a self-sacrificial Madonna, isn't it? Or the Magdalens.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. He finds it very difficult to write about women. And I thought the point where it really didn't work was when he's writing a love scene, and it goes thee, thou, thee, this, both, and then her jacket slid off, and you think, huh? What happened there? And I'm coming back to Paul's point. You don't have to retain it all. It's a very dense novel, and I find it incredibly rich. And I didn't feel I have to hold on to everything all the time.
Guns, but not really romance.
Well, Roscoe by William Kennedy is published by Scribner. Terry Gilliam, the buccaneering, irrepressible filmmaker, has always harboured a desire to make a film about Don Quixote. He's in good company. Orson Welles, too, tried his hand at Cervantes' tragicomic tale. Finally, Gilliam got a budget together, found his perfect anti-hero, and set off for Spain. As is almost obligatory now, a documentary crew was in tow to shoot a making-of film for TV. Just as well, because few people would have believed what happened next.
So no, look, we have to come here in the morning, see what we can do. This could be dry, may not. Weather might be shitty, but we can't. That's going to be a mud hole. It's not going to dry overnight. There's a plan. There's a very clear plan what we're doing, and and we're the victims of that. And if we keep running for each thing, all we do is run in circles. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I mean, all of us have done a lot of stuff, and none of us know the answer right now. I mean, you're sitting, everybody is just like...
Paul, for a moment, let's just forget about the quality of the documentary and just tell me what you made of what befell Terry Gilliam.
Well, in the sense that you say you can't quite believe what's going to happen next, there's a great sense of inevitability that this would happen if Gilliam was doing Don Quixote. And
F-16 bombers.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that they say at the end of this week where everything goes wrong, everything that could go wrong could go. But something about Gilliam and the way he's made his films in the past and how he has these great dreams and these great ambitions, you would feel that he must know by now that it will go wrong, that there will be the F-16 bombers, and they should have known that. But they kind of did as well, you know. They kind of did know because
they knew
knew
there
for
was a
an hour
NATO
a
bombing
day.
range.
But that's enough, surely, not to go there, you know. And the fact that there is rain that comes down on the first day of shooting, which turns the colour of the landscape a different colour for the next day. You think he would have checked that? But the thing about
checking the rain coming down.
He would have checked that if that happened, that the colour would have changed of the landscape, because it's a possibility. You know. But anyway, because they seem to sort of cover so much in terms of preparation that they just seem to miss vast areas of how they should have been prepared. But watching the documentary, it would almost have been a better thing if you'd have seen the making of Lost in La Mancha, because there seems to be a lot of things missing somehow. You want to see the other dimension too. So as wonderful it is as to see a great thing before the great, you know, Terry Gilliam, who I adore and always makes fantastic films. It also seems to be that there were certain things we were missing.
In the documentary
and you sometimes thought, Terry, how do you make your films?
Yes.
You know, are you letting us think that this is how you make your films? I think you're hiding something.
And didn't you know that this fellow should perhaps had a medical checkup before he was signed up at the age of 70? And he is a perfect-looking Don Quixote, is he not?
He was obviously born for the part, and so you look at him and think this is the man who should play Don Quixote.
Because he was born for the part, something was bound to befell him. Do you know what I mean?
I spent all the time thinking it takes a lot of cheek to ask people to hand over a tenner to go and see a film about a film that doesn't exist. I mean, somebody described it as a footnote to a text that isn't there, which gives you an idea of the status this has.
To be fair, this documentary was meant for a television production, but has now been released in the cinema at a 15 certificate for some obscure reason. So it was never actually destined for the cinema, and it's not a cinema film.
It's not in terms of kind of the way it's shot, the way it's structured. It's not cinematic. It's a television film. And I think even as a television film, they could happily shave 15 minutes off it and it wouldn't be a problem. But it does fit into a very established genre. You know, there is things like Burden of Dreams, which is about Herzog's making of Fitzcarraldo. There's Heart of Darkness, which is about Coppola's making of Apocalypse Now. And both those films are better examples of the genre, because what happens with in Burden of Dreams is Fitzcarraldo has to transport a 3-deck boat up through the jungle, up a mountain to an inland lake. There are problems with tropical diseases, there's Kaskinska throwing tantrums. In Heart of Darkness, somebody has a heart attack, there's kind of also drug problems. What happens here is that, there's a storm which lasts one afternoon, and the lead actor has a prostate problem.
About when the investors come, suddenly a coastload of investors arrive from Germany. 50 sort of ordinary-looking people looking like on a tourist
you
trip.
think are duped.
And they put in $15 million, and you think, hang on, you put in $250,000 each, and you look like on a tourist trip.
Rosie, as a journalist, what did you make of it? I mean, we didn't really speak to Johnny Depp, and we didn't really find out what the problem was with the producers.
I thought it was terrible, actually. I mean, I thought it was pretty boring. I thought it was
$32 million.
Incredibly self-indulgent. I'd always quite liked Terry Gilliam up till then, and I came away not liking him. Nobody seemed to carry the can for this disaster, which I thought was very... There's one moment where someone screams, "Where's the director?" But apart from that, nobody is holding on to it. All the interesting things that I wanted to know, like what were these investors asking? What were the insurance companies saying? Why at the beginning were we suddenly told that $10 million had suddenly been withdrawn? Well, why did this happen? How did they get into this mess? You don't get it at all. What you get is a kind of, as I say, self-indulgent thing of a lot of people standing around, often in car parks, kind of saying, what are we going to do now? And in 6 days, the whole film's over. And that's also extraordinary.
And also people being very reverential to Terry Gilliam, that's the other thing.
Yes. There's a sense you get that when Gilliam finally does make Don Quixote, that this will have been part of the spin.
Yes.
Yeah, he'll make it.
But tell me what, just did you find the glimpses of what he'd actually shot quite tantalising?
Oh, absolutely. When the Giants, the filming of the Giants, and they're coming towards you, and Gilliam gets excited and said, that's the trailer coming soon. But for me, for all its banalities and its lack of journalistic integrity, so to speak, just to see Gilliam, the moment when Gilliam realises he's not going to be able to make this film, and all his chutzpah and this excitement he has, and he turns into slightly kind of